Chapter 173. Based on what? Instructor Ho's eyes were cold and his face showed a sarcastic smile. He walked straight to Shangguan Liuli, stretched out his hand and easily lifted her up. How dare you touch me? I am the fifth Missy of the Shangguan family. Shangguan Liuli was so angry that her face turned red and struggled to slap the instructor's hand. Instructor Ho's hand was as tough as a stone. No matter how Shangguan Liuli pulled, it didn't budge at all. On the other hand, her exquisite hair and her gorgeous robe were already in a mess due to the struggle. When Instructor Ho threw her to the ground, Shangguan Liuli looked like a crazy woman. Her image was ruined. Before Shangguan Liuli could cry out, Instructor Ho had already walked in front of her and bent down slightly. His cold voice was extremely dignified. Based on the fact that I am your instructor, based on the fact that you have entered the Heavenly Academy, if you don't want to learn, then get lost. Waf! A sharp cry burst out from Shangguan Liuli's mouth. She covered her face, lying on the ground and crying bitterly. Her mouth kept on cursing. Yiqing Luo heard her own name and suddenly felt speechless. Damn, she was shot even though she was lying down. This girl's princess syndrome was probably in the late stage. Shut up! Instructor Ho shouted impatiently. Shangguan Liuli had never been shouted at like this before. When she was easily lifted up by Instructor Ho, she had no strength to resist and had an instinctive sense of fear towards Instructor Ho. At this time, when she heard Instructor Ho's stern shout, her mouth immediately flattened and sobbed a few times, not daring to make a sound, and looked at Instructor Ho timidly. Either return to the team, or get lost now. Shangguan Liuli bit her red lips, wiped her tears and moved back to the team. Why did everyone have to bully her? She was bullied by Yiqing Luo yesterday, and didn't even return to the dormitory. She could only stay outside with Shangguan Fangyi for a night. Shangguan Fangyi had slapped her and was worried that she would really complain to the Shangguan family head, so he had no choice but to accompany her. Now, Shangguan Liuli was so sleepy that she was dozing off and was bullied by the instructor. She wanted to throw a tantrum and go back to complain to her father. But, no matter how stupid Shangguan Liuli was, she was still very clear about the internal strife in her family. Her profound heart, jade and talent were the reasons why she had been doted on since she was young. After entering the Heavenly Academy, her status in the Shangguan family would rise by a few levels. Now, he's being chased back to the Shangguan family by the instructor? Then her many years of hard work would all be wasted. They would also become the laughing stock of the Shangguan family. Staying in the Heavenly Academy, with third brother's help, it would only be a matter of minutes to take revenge. Instructor Ho sneered when he saw her lowering her head obediently. His gaze swept across the freshman and said in a cold tone, "The Heavenly Academy is not short of students with outstanding qualifications, nor students with great power and influence. Don't even think of using the same tricks you used outside in the academy. The reason why the Heavenly Academy is hailed as the best academy is because of the Heavenly Academy's strength." The freshman nodded in agreement. With an example of killing the chicken to warn the monkeys, these freshmen who were originally suppressed by Instructor Ho's imposing manner and did not dare to speak, even their breathing became more cautious. Well, what should be said has been said by Instructor Ho. Although the words are not pleasant to hear, but every sentence is from the bottom of his heart. If the freshmen want to study in the Heavenly Academy for a long time, then remember what Instructor Ho said. Instructor Chu's mouth hooked up into a faint smile. His cold and stiff face became slightly gentle. Chapter 174. The purpose of your coming to the Heavenly Academy, is it to show off to others that you are able to get into the Heavenly Academy, or is it to become stronger, to win glory for your family, for the mainland? This question was extremely incisive. It could be said that more than 70% of the freshmen present were trying their best to get into the Heavenly Academy because of its reputation. To be able to enter the Heavenly Academy, even if it was in the low class, was a symbol of status. In the future, when you walk outside the academy and show off your identity as a student of the Heavenly Academy, you would be admired by everyone. This was the power of the Heavenly Academy's reputation. Just like how everyone's expression changed when they heard the words Overlord, it was the same logic. Therefore, when Instructor Chu asked the question, none of the freshmen answered. Yiqing Luo didn't speak either. She still understood the principle of shooting the bird that sticks out. Before she had enough strength, it was better to keep a low profile. On the day of the ability assessment, she had already been in the limelight with DMO Xian's escort. As the saying goes, there's always someone better than you out there. Her high profile would only invite some unnecessary trouble. I think you already have the answer in your heart, Instructor Chu said indifferently after a long silence. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, and his lips curled up into a mocking smile. Whether it's to show off to others, or to raise my profound rank, or to make myself stronger, there's only one starting point, is to learn. If you come to the Heavenly Academy and learn nothing, will others laugh at you for being mediocre, or will they laugh at the Heavenly Academy for not knowing how to teach? Sounds of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard in the square. Instructor Chu's words woke everyone up from their dreams. Yiqing Luo's lips raised slightly. She was very interested in the teaching methods of these two instructors. These two were definitely brothers who had been partners for many years. One was cold and domineering, the other convinced with reason. With such a combination, there were very few freshmen who could escape from their control. These students only thought that once they were admitted into the Heavenly Academy, it would represent infinite glory and a symbol of status. But they had never thought that after entering the Heavenly Academy, if they stagnated and were unable to advance to the profound grade. In the eyes of the world, it would never be said that the Heavenly Academy with the best school did not know how to teach. It would only say, in the Heavenly Academy, which was full of talents, their aptitude seemed extremely mediocre. It was such a good starting point for them to speed up their growth, but there were no results. It was simply a waste. At that time, all the brilliance would turn into a shadow and cover all the light. Do you want to become stronger? The freshmen were still in a state of shock when they suddenly heard Instructor Chu's explosive roar and were shocked. Yes, he replied in a scattered manner. Louder. Yes. Louder. Yes. Do you want to let the light of being admitted into the Heavenly Academy shine brighter? Yes. Good. Now run 5 laps around the square. All right. After hundreds of people answered in unison, they finally realized what was going on. 5 laps? Are you kidding me? The plaza was so huge that one could not see the end of it at a glance. Even if they were on the inside, circling 1 round would be fatal, not to mention 5 rounds. First row, start running. Second row, follow up. Instructor Chu did not seem to notice the resentment in the freshman's eyes and directly shouted out the slogan. 5 laps is a bit too much, instructor. Can you just run 1 lap, just 1 lap? This early in the morning, after running 1 lap, I won't have the energy to do anything for the rest of the day. Instructor, you must be joking with us, right? Chapter 175. Just as the crowd were whining and complaining incessantly, Yiqing Luo had already taken the lead and started running. She estimated that running 1 round in the inner line of the square was about 2 kilometers and 5 rounds would be 10 kilometers. For ordinary people, no one could run all the way. But these things, in her previous life, when Yiqing Luo was trained as the head of the hidden family, not to mention 10 kilometers, even if it was 20 kilometers, she had to run non-stop. This could train a person's physical strength, endurance, and mental power. A lot of training was based on running. Hundreds of freshmen saw Yiqing Luo spontaneously running, and all of their faces turned ugly. If the students collectively protested, the instructors might reduce the number of laps because no one listened to the command. They didn't expect Yiqing Luo to take the initiative to run. Then Lu Xiaoyu also followed. The 2 instructors' sight fell on Yiqing Luo. They had been in the academy for such a long time and had always been the freshman instructors, so naturally they had a set of ability to judge people. From the moment Yi Qing Luo stood among the freshmen, the two of them had already noticed this girl. From the beginning to the end, there was no hint of impatience on her face. Or perhaps no expression. Unlike the other freshmen, although they didn't say anything, but there was some dissatisfaction towards the instructors on the surface. Looking at her proper running posture, uniform footsteps and breathing, the admiration in the two instructors' eyes was even more obvious. Shangguan Luli saw all these, especially when she saw the instructors actually admired Yi Qing Luo. A sense of imbalance surged in her heart. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Wasn't it just running? Who didn't know how to do it? She had made the instructors unhappy earlier, now she would pull the instructors' impression of her back. Shangguan Luli took a deep breath and with a burst of strength, she quickly rushed over. In a short while, she had already reached the front of Yi Qing Luo. When she overtook Yi Qing Luo, she didn't forget to throw her a provocative look and immediately left Yi Qing Luo far behind. Qing Luo, do you want to chase after her? Lu Xiaoyu followed beside Yi Qing Luo, maintaining the same speed as her. Looking at Shangguan Luli's arrogant look, she revealed a look of disdain. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. Once you start running, you can't stop after 5 laps. Let her show off now, later on, she will suffer. I suddenly feel like you're very black-bellied. Lu Xiaoyu rolled her eyes and instantly understood the meaning of Yi Qing Luo's words. Then wouldn't I be in trouble? 5 laps. It would take my life. Run slowly, the instructor only said 5 laps and didn't set a time limit. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Lu Xiaoyu. She believed that Lu Xiaoyu definitely had the ability to finish the 5 laps with her. Lu Xiaoyu's running posture was as standard as hers, and she adjusted her breathing very well. She also knew how to use profound qi to relieve the fatigue in her legs. Although it would be very difficult for them to complete 5 laps, they would definitely be able to complete it. That's right. Let's run first. When those people start running and we're done, we can watch them. Lu Xiaoyu nodded with a smile. Then, he reached out to touch his stomach. If I had known this would happen, I would have secretly brought some pastries and hid them in my clothes. If I had something to eat, I would definitely be more energetic now. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. 1 ran away, 2 ran away, 3 ran away. Following that, several freshmen lined up one by one and started running. After running 1 lap, Shangguan Luli, who initially left Yi Qing Luo half a lap behind, obviously couldn't hold on any longer. She ran with all her might and towards the end, her legs were getting more and more tired. Even lifting up was extremely strenuous. But unfortunately, she couldn't stop. There were too many pairs of eyes staring at her. If she stopped now, others might ridicule her. Chapter 176. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change, her face wasn't red and she wasn't out of breath. He easily overtook Shangguan Luli, who was already exhausted. When a gust of fragrant wind passed by, Shangguan Luli panted heavily, her face flushed and stared at Yi Qing Luo. She couldn't swallow the anger in her heart and couldn't spit it out, it was suffocating in her chest. She wanted to speed up and overtake Yi Qing Luo again to teach her a lesson. But Shangguan Luli felt as if there was 1,000 catty boulder pressing on her legs, she couldn't lift it at all. In particular, Shangguan Luli was still wearing the same dress when she came to the school yesterday, gorgeous and cumbersome. After running 1 round, she was drenched in sweat, her messy hair stuck to her face and neck, and her dress was too heavy. Shangguan Luli took a deep breath and gritted her teeth, her unyielding spirit was aroused by Yi Qing Luo. Shangguan Luli clenched her fist, and was about to take a step to chase after Yi Qing Luo. But just as she tried to lift her foot, a force suddenly hit her from behind. Shangguan Luli immediately saw stars and staggered and fell to the ground. Lu Xiaoyu's charming laughter came into her ears. "Oh, Shangguan student, I'm so sorry, I was too tired and didn't notice you stopped, do you want me to help you up?" A slender white hand stretched out in front of her. You obviously did it on purpose. Shangguan Liuli was furious. Pa, she shook off Lu Xiaoyu's hand. You are in cahoots with her, you are in cahoots to bully me. I really didn't mean it. Lu Xiaoyu covered the back of her hand, which was red from the slap, and looked at the instructor with a wronged look. Instructor Ho's face was sullen, the iron rod in his hand stabbed the ground fiercely. Continue to run. Who dares to stop before 5 laps are completed? Report to the low profound class now. Lu Xiaoyu looked frightened, her eyes were filled with grievance as she looked at Shangguan Liuli, bit her lips and turned to chase after Yiqing Luo. Shangguan Liuli lay on the ground and cried out loud. Beside her, the freshmen ran past her one by one. Instructor Ho narrowed his eyes and shouted coldly, That new student, if you don't want to run, then get out here. Don't block the other student's path. When the freshmen heard this, they could not help but burst into laughter. They were exhausted from all the running, and having a good show to watch could at least refresh their spirit. Run? Not running? Shangguan Liuli lay on the ground, feeling conflicted. She didn't have the strength to run, and she didn't have the means to get first place and win back the instructor's impression. If she didn't run, she would be assigned to the low profound class. At that time, wouldn't those people at home who wanted to see her make a fool of herself be able to make a fuss about it? Before entering the Heavenly Academy, she had already vowed in front of her father that she would definitely enter the high profound class together with her third brother. Thinking about how she would not be loved by her family in the future, Shangguan Liuli was filled with unwillingness. Biting her lower lip, she stood up and continued running. Yiqing Luo deliberately jogged slowly, waiting for Lu Xiaoyu to catch up with her. There was no trace of grievance on Lu Xiaoyu's face at this time. She snorted. I can't stand people who are so arrogant without strength. You still want me to be careful? Aren't you afraid that she will bear a grudge against you for targeting her so openly? What am I afraid of? I, Lu Xiaoyu, am not afraid of anything other than having nothing to eat. Lu Xiaoyu proudly raised her head, revealing a smug smile. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up, her heart warmed. Chapter 177. By the second lap, quite a number of people had chosen to give up and fell to the ground, gasping for air. There were still more than 300 people persisting in the inner circle of the square. The 2 leaders in front were still expressionless. Those 300 students who were still persisting stared at Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu with bloodshot eyes. They were roaring in their hearts. Where did these 2 perverts come from? Couldn't they just happily be freshmen together? If it wasn't for the sweat on their faces and soaked clothes, everyone would have suspected that they were cheating. They were not even panting after running for so long. By the third lap, more than half of the students had left. There were more than 100 people left in the field. Lu Xiaoyu was also left behind. Her face was slightly flushed and she was panting. Obviously, her physical strength could no longer support her to move forward at a constant speed. Don't worry about me, you run first, I will stop myself when I can't do it anymore. Lu Xiaoyu's breathing was extremely heavy, her legs had already slowed down as she spoke. Yiqing Luo nodded slightly, quickly adjusted her breathing, and began to speed up. When everyone saw Yiqing Luo speeding up, they all felt like dying. Damn! She was definitely a pervert. Was she a horse in her past life? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes revealed a strange look as she stared at Yiqing Luo's back in a daze. Could it be that Yiqing Luo had not used her full strength? Was it to match her speed? The corners of Lu Xiaoyu's mouth curled up a little, and her bright eyes were also tinged with a smile. It seemed that this trip to the Heavenly Academy was not in vain. By the fourth lap, there were only 20 to 30 people left in the field. There were quite a number of people lying on the ground, half dead and unable to get up. The instructors did not have the slightest bit of pity. They called 2 old students from the low class and carried them down. Yiqing Luo did not care how many students were following behind her, she just constantly adjusted her breathing. Her face was not red and she was not out of breath. it was just an illusion to others. In fact, by the fourth lap, Yiqing Luo's breathing had already become somewhat heavy. His legs also gradually became heavier, and he was no longer as nimble as before. However, there was no such word as give up in Yiqing Luo's dictionary. Since she had chosen to run, she would definitely finish the whole course. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth and persevered as she continued forward. It was until the fifth round was completed when Yiqing Luo slowly came to a stop. The two instructors stood at the finish line. Their cold faces curled into an extremely shallow arc. "Congratulations, you're great." This was the first person to complete 5 laps of the square since the start of the lesson. The students of low, intermediate, and high profound classes who were watching from the sidelines were all amazed. One had to know. These two instructors had never praised anyone since they became instructors. One by one, they craned their necks to see who this freshman who had run 5 laps and was praised by the two cold-faced instructors was. Yiqing Luo was neither arrogant nor rash as she gave a decent smile. "Thank you for the instructor's recognition." After saying that, she nodded politely and walked to the side of the square. She began to stretch her limbs and sat down to stretch and relax her muscles. The instructor's eyes were filled with admiration. This girl had quite a lot of common sense. At this time, the 30 people in the field could not hold on any longer on the 4th lap. Some fainted and some retreated in defeat. Sparsely, there were only 3 people left, still staggering as they ran. One of them was Lu Xiaoyu. She was already drenched in sweat, her footsteps were heavy and her whole body was swaying. But she insisted on running. Chapter 178. These 3 people must be crazy. Do they really want to put their lives on the line? They don't want their lives, but we do. My overall score in the ability assessment is not bad. Even if I fail this run, I can at least get into the intermediate class. Even if I enter the high profound class, I still need to be alive. The freshmen who had fallen on the ground were all complaining. Humans were like this. Once they couldn't persevere, they would continue to say sour words, believing that their persistence was simply stupid. To put it bluntly, it was just an excuse for their cowardice. It was just to make him feel more at ease when he was a coward. Lu Xiaoyu's body was already on the verge of collapsing. She was at the front, her legs were like lead weights, step by step forward. Fortunately, Yiqing Luo reminded them that they were dressed in black today. Even if they were sweating profusely, it wouldn't reveal the color of their inner clothes. But the other female students were miserable. She was drenched in sweat, and her thin muslin clothes clung to her curvaceous figure. Of course, everyone was tired at this time and didn't have the mood to care about these. "Xiaoyu, come on, just a few more steps and we'll be there." Yiqing Luo stopped her leg stretching action and jogged slowly towards the square. Although she was still a little tired after stretching her muscles, but it wasn't as tiring as before, after running 5 laps. She came to Lu Xiaoyu's side and smiled slightly. "If you successfully run 5 laps, I'll treat you to roast chicken in the cafeteria tonight." Perhaps it was the word roast chicken that made Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo ran to her side after running 5 laps and continued to accompany her for another half lap. Lu Xiaoyu's exhausted and sweaty face also showed a trace of determination. One cheered in her ear, the other ran with all her might. Finally, they reached the end of the 5th lap at the same time. Lu Xiaoyu couldn't even stand steadily. Yiqing Luo supported her to stand for about half an incense's time before she let go of Lu Xiaoyu and let her do the muscle-stretching action. The second freshman to successfully run 5 laps. This batch of freshmen was really eye-catching. The two instructors' hearts swelled up and the students' hearts were boiling. Immediately after, thunderous applause resounded throughout the square. These 2 new students were absolutely worthy of this applause. Lying on the ground, Shangguan Liuli's eyes were filled with ruthless hatred as she stood among the freshmen who were unable to move. She was surrounded by a few of her good friends from outside the academy. They were all exhausted, but they still had to serve Shangguan Liuli. "Fifth miss, don't be angry. These two people are not to be trifled with. Heh! I will never swallow this down." Shangguan Liuli's eyes were vicious, like a sharp knife, cutting Yiqing Luo. Why was it that Yiqing Luo could complete 5 laps but she couldn't? If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's provocation, forcing her to use all her strength first, she would definitely be able to run 5 laps. Now, the glory of these applause also belonged to her. The more he thought about it, the darker the darkness in his heart grew. My roast chicken. Roast chickens still count. Lu Xiaoyu rested for a while and walked towards Yiqing Luo. As expected of a foodie, the first thing he asked was food. Yiqing Luo smiled. Of course, tonight please. I suddenly feel that all the hard work today is worth it." Lu Xiaoyu made a greedy look and licked her lip. Chapter 179. There was a silence in the square. Just a little bit more and the two of them actually collapsed. If they woke up, wouldn't they be so angry that they vomited blood? Look, not only did they not complete the running task, they almost lost half their lives. This was the first time they saw and heard of running until they fainted. "Luckily we didn't insist on running, we have to fight with our lives. Just a little bit more, fate makes fools of people, fate makes fools of people." One by one, the freshmen shook their heads and sighed. Although there was a sense of pity in their words, it was obvious that they were gloating over their misfortune. Instructor Ho slowly walked to the position where the instructor stood. His face was cold and his voice was cold and ruthless. "Return to the team." Those freshmen lying on the ground had not even caught their breath. Their legs were so heavy that they couldn't even stand straight. When they heard the instructors shout, one by one, they wailed and flopped on the ground, refusing to get up. "I'll give you a count of 10. Those freshmen who have not returned to the team, don't come back in the future." Instructor Ho directly raised a finger and said coldly, 1. The freshmen's face changed. They didn't dare to complain anymore, struggled to get up and staggered back to the team. After counting to 10, everyone obediently stood back in the team. "Today's training ends here. I have seen your general strength. In the next month, I will customize the training method according to each of your strength." Instructor Ho put his hands behind his back and said majestically, "Today is just the beginning, there are more rigorous training waiting for you in the future." For a moment, the sound of the freshmen inhaling cold air came one after another. Today was already half their lives. Damn, there were more rigorous training? Wasn't that the rhythm of them dying on the training ground? "Tomorrow at the same time, gather at the freshman training ground." Instructor Ho said faintly. His cold gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and paused for a moment. "The students who pass today's training can report 2 hours later." Everyone looked at Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu with envious gazes. They were extremely resentful. Why didn't they insist on running the 5 lap? After Instructor Ho finished, he squinted at Instructor Chu. Instructor Chu understood, and took a step forward, pointing to several directions in the crowd. He was referring to Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu. "Both of you passed the training." Lu Xiaoyu excitedly hugged Yiqing Luo tightly as she cried out, "Finally we can enjoy our breakfast to our heart's content." Also, the 2 freshmen who were just a few steps away from completing 5 laps have passed the training. Once these words were spoken, some of the new students were immediately unconvinced. Why are they considered to have passed? A few steps away means a few steps away. If you haven't finished 5 laps, you haven't finished. Right. No matter if it was a step or a few steps, it was still a difference. It doesn't count as passing the training. The 2 instructors slightly frowned and scolded in a low voice with a sullen face. "Am I the instructor or are you the instructor? If you have the strength, why are you still standing here feeling indignant? Why don't you have the strength to continue running?" Even if they missed by half a lap, they still passed. If you have the ability to impress us, you can also pass the training. Seeing that the instructor was enraged, the freshman didn't dare to speak anymore. However, his face was filled with indignation. Although he said it, his heart refused to accept it. The instructors' faces were cold. Just as they were about to dismiss the group and let the freshmen go back, they heard a clear voice ring out. Chapter 180. Humans have unlimited potential. As long as you are willing to work hard and persevere, you will be able to stimulate it. Hard work may not necessarily lead to success, but if you don't work hard, you will never succeed. Everyone's sight followed the voice and looked over. Yiqing Luo was expressionless, her pink lips slightly pursed. Obviously her eyes were cold and emotionless, but her whole body exuded a terrifying aura. That pair of charming eyes, the corners of her eyes hooked into a narrow arc, enchanting yet covered by a layer of snow and frost. The reason why those two students can pass the training is because of their persistence and their hard work, which moved the instructor. Yiqing Luo's cold eyes swept through the crowd one by one, her lips hooked into a mocking smile. And all of you, other than being jealous of others and envious of others, have you ever persevered and worked hard to pass the training? His words caused the new students, who were still clamoring, to lower their heads in silence. Instructor Chu looked at Yiqing Luo. This girl had aroused his interest. When she said these words, her attitude was neither servile nor overbearing, not deliberately showing off, and everything was said in an orderly manner. No wonder old man Gui Yu wanted to take her as his disciple the first time he saw this girl. He cleared his throat and gestured for everyone to focus on him again. Just as he was about to speak, a sharp and unwilling voice came from the crowd. Yiqing Luo, on what basis do you say that we did not work hard? We are so tired from running that we can't even lift our legs, and some students were carried to the medical hall. Don't tell me these people did not work hard? Shangguan Liuli couldn't stand Yiqing Luo showing off. In her eyes, Yiqing Luo's action today was deliberately going against her, deliberately trying to destroy her prestige. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched with a faint smile. How can you be sure that those people really fainted? You. Shangguan Liuli's face was livid, pointing at Yiqing Luo. Her fingers were trembling. Enough. Do you think you are not tired enough? If you're not tired enough, run another 5 laps around the square. Instructor Ho furrowed his brows and scolded angrily. The freshman cried out in pain. Tired to death. Since you know you're tired, why haven't you dismissed yet? The group of freshmen was startled for a moment before they cried out in joy and swarmed away. They were eager to return to their dormitories and have a good rest. Yiqing Luo supported Lu Xiaoyu. Go rest first, I'll treat you to roast chicken tonight. The moment Lu Xiaoyu heard about roast duck, her beautiful eyes sparkled as she wrapped her arms around Yiqing Luo's slender waist. No rest, treat me to roast chicken now. As long as there's food, I'll be full of energy. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly and pulled her to the canteen. Lu Xiaoyu really deserved to be a real foodie. When the roast chicken was placed in front of her, her whole body was full of vitality, and her eyes were only filled with food. After eating 2 roast chickens and a large plate of meat, Lu Xiaoyu burped in satisfaction. One meal cost Yiqing Luo 50 silver coins. After the meal, Lu Xiaoyu had eaten too much, so Yiqing Luo accompanied her to walk 1 round around the courtyard and received 2 sets of uniform before returning to the dormitory. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he heard a woman's laughter coming from inside, as if she was saying something. Yiqing Luo pushed the door and entered. In the hall, around a mahogany square table, sat 5 gorgeously dressed women. As soon as they saw Yiqing Luo, the 5 of them looked over in unison. Chapter 181. As soon as she said this, the other 4 covered their mouths and chuckled. That's right, we are not as lucky as 7th Miss Yi. Another woman also spoke in a sarcastic tone. Shangguan Liuli reclined on a soft chair, no longer in a sorry state like she was in the square. 7th Miss Yi, if you have any trick to not be tired after running 5 laps, why don't you teach us? Yiqing Luo could hear the sarcasm from each of them. These people were probably suspecting that she and Lu Xiaoyu had cheated to be able to run 5 laps. What do you mean? You? Lu Xiaoyu frowned, rolled up her sleeves, pointed at the 5 women, and scolded. Weren't you all shouting in the square that you couldn't run anymore and were exhausted? How do you still have the energy to gossip here? The 5 women's faces changed, slammed the table, and were about to get up to fight with Lu Xiaoyu. Yiqing Luo took Lu Xiaoyu's arm and walked into the room. The 5 women looked at each other and revealed a mocking smile. When Yiqing Luo walked into the room with Lu Xiaoyu and saw everything in the room, a trace of hostility flashed across her eyes. The thin quilt she laid yesterday had been replaced by a set of colorful quilts. The clean and tidy table was also filled with pearl flowers and rouge powder. There was even a rack set up at the side, on which there were many gorgeous dresses that were decorated with beautiful flowers. Obviously, her room had been occupied by others. Lu Xiaoyu's face sank and turned to Shangguan Liuli angrily. Don't go too far. I'm going too far, what can you do? Hit me if you have the ability. Shangguan Liuli stood up proudly and crossed her arms over her chest. This room, I want it. Shangguan Liuli was smart this time, taking advantage of the school's rules that students were not allowed to fight in private. No matter how angry Yiqing Luo was, she would never dare to hit her. Go check your room. Yiqing Luo pulled the angry Lu Xiaoyu back. Only then did Lu Xiaoyu react and rush to her room. Sure enough, the things in her room were also replaced by Shangguan Liuli's things. Yiqing Luo saw Lu Xiaoyu's flushed face and glanced around the main hall. Her and Lu Xiaoyu's luggage were piled up in the corner behind the wooden cabinet. The square wooden box that Lu Xiaoyu had carefully kept with pastries had fallen to the ground. The lid had long disappeared, and a few pieces of pastries were scattered on the ground. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as a chilly ray shot out. She didn't want to waste time with Shangguan Liuli. But that did not mean that she would tolerate Shangguan Liuli's repeated provocations. Her room and Lu Xiaoyu's room were probably made by these 5 people. Return our things back. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile, her voice was extremely calm. Put it back? Dream on. Shangguan Liuli slammed the table and stood up with her hands akimbo. Let me tell you, I will take whichever room I want. Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the Heavenly Academy just because you have the instructor's liking. Very good. Yiqing Luo laughed softly. Her laughter was extremely soft, but it was filled with an invisible pressure. She spread out her 5 fingers and a red fan appeared between her fingers. One of the ladies saw that red fan and her face suddenly turned pale. That's the glower flame fan, it's her weapon. Yes, I've seen it during the ability assessment. This fan is very strange. Shangguan Liuli heard this and the arrogance on her face could no longer be maintained. Chapter 182. Really? Yiqing Luo smiled faintly, her brows raised slightly. Her sweet but not coquettish face added a hint of coldness. That pair of charming eyes was suffused with a trace of bloodthirsty murderous intent. Shangguan Liuli, even outside the academy, you, the 5th Miss Shangguan, are nothing in front of me. Yiqing Luo took a straight step forward as the corners of her lips maintained a sly smile which didn't look like a smile. Shangguan Liuli tensed up. She had suffered a loss in Yiqing Luo's hands previously. She immediately stood up and stood behind the other 4 women. The 4 women were also frightened by Yiqing Luo's aura as they stood rooted to the ground, staring at her in a daze. It was until Yiqing Luo approached that they let out a scream and dispersed. Shangguan Liuli, didn't you say that this young matriarch doesn't dare to make a move? Why should I hide? Yiqing Luo sneered. Shangguan Liuli's breathing gradually quickened as her chest heaved up and down. She was used to being pampered and had always been condescending. In Yiqing Luo's hands, she had suffered a setback time and time again. She absolutely could not swallow this down. Now she had 4 helpers. There was no need to be afraid of Yiqing Luo. Who would know that they had made a move on Yiqing Luo after walking out of this dormitory? Shangguan Luli thought in this way as she glanced at the few women scattered by the side. These women often conspired with Shangguan Luli outside the academy and did a lot of evil things, but to them it was just a prank. One look and they immediately understood Shangguan Luli's meaning. The 4 women calmed down. There were 5 of them and Shangguan Luli was a mystic profound cultivator. Yiqing Luo was only one person, plus Lu Xiaoyu who looked like a waste. Afraid that they couldn't win? Yiqing Luo, what are you so arrogant for? Do you really think that you are the young matriarch of Three Springs sect? Your reputation in the West Continent is a waste. Shangguan Luli's eyes were sinister, profound qi condensed in her palm and suddenly pressed towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, a burning feeling suddenly arose in her heart. Shangguan Luli's chest was surrounded by a red glow. A scarlet-black star pattern appeared beneath her feet, and 5 stars floated out. Mystic Profound Grade 5. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. Scarlet Heart Jade, Mystic Profound 5th Grade. No wonder Shangguan Luli was at the Mystic Profound rank 5, but her strength was so weak. Her Jade Heart's level was too low. It was impossible to completely release the power of the Mystic Profound Grade 5. Presumably, Shangguan Liuli's profound rank was rushed up with elixirs. As for Shangguan Liuli and the other 3 sisters, they only felt a powerful force enveloping them. An envious look appeared on his face, and he boldly stood on Shangguan Liuli's side. Seeing Shangguan Liuli's palm striking towards her, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change at all. Just as the palm wind was nearing her face, Yiqing Luo suddenly stretched out her hand. Pa! A loud slap resounded through the entire dormitory. He saw Yiqing Luo grabbing Shangguan Liuli's hand with one hand, while the other hand directly flung onto Shangguan Liuli's face. Yiqing Luo had used quite a bit of strength in this slap. Shangguan Liuli's delicate little face was imprinted with a clear 5-finger print. I don't have the leisure to waste time with you. Either you tuck your tail between your legs when you see me next time, or I will hit you every time I see you. Chapter 183. The few ladies froze on the spot and retracted their hands that were about to strike back stiffly. They were unable to calm down the turbulent waves in their hearts. What on earth was going on? Why was Yiqing Luo able to avoid Shangguan Liuli's palm strike? Why was she able to grab Shangguan Liuli's hand so accurately? And that slap, how on earth did it land on Shangguan Liuli's face? According to the investigation, wasn't Yiqing Luo a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator? How could she be so powerful? Go. Go. There are 5 of us, are we afraid that we can't beat her? Shangguan Liuli spat out blood from the fall. She wiped the blood stains on her lips and stood up, shouting sternly, Whoever can hurt her, after we leave the academy, I will reward you with 10 gold coins. 10 gold coins. The 4 ladies' eyes lit up with excitement. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Although these ladies were rich young ladies, but 10 gold coins, it would take several years of salary to save up. Upon hearing this, the 4 of them looked at each other and rushed towards Yiqing Luo at the same time. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu frowned and was about to rush up and join in the battle. You watch from the side. Yiqing Luo glanced at Lu Xiaoyu and curled her lip. Immediately, she leaped into the midst of the 4. These 4 ladies were able to enter the Heavenly Academy, so they had some ability. Their reaction and adaptability were not bad. When they attacked from the left and right, Yiqing Luo suddenly squatted down. The feather fan in her hand flew and knocked on their elbows. A few cries of pain came from their mouth. Yiqing Luo stuck close to them closely as her arm lifted up slightly and mercilessly slammed against their elbows. The 4 ladies' faces turned pale in pain and cold sweat oozed out of their foreheads. One by one, they shrank back and couldn't even lift their hands. How would they dare to continue fighting with Yiqing Luo? You dare to hit us in the academy, I will tell the instructor. Shangguan Liuli trembled in fear. Yi Qing Luo curled her lips and turned to look at Lu Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, did I hit anyone? Lu Xiaoyu shook her head cooperatively and blinked innocently with a wronged look. Did Qing Luo hit anyone? Why didn't I see it? Isn't it because 5th Miss Shangguan is jealous that we passed the training, so she occupies 3 rooms and wants to drive us out of the dormitory? Yi Qing Luo nodded her head with a smile as her vision turned towards the 4 young ladies. Did I hit you? The 4 women opened their mouths, but no words came out. Shangguan Liuli was so infuriated that her face flushed red as she clutched her chest with one hand and pointed at Yi Qing Luo with the other. Don't you dare to deny it. The wounds on our bodies are the best proof. Weren't those injuries caused by you sisters accidentally sparring with one another? The smile on Yi Qing Luo's face became increasingly sweet and harmless. What's more, the one who used profound qi to attack me was you. 5th Miss Shangguan. Shangguan Liuli didn't understand what he meant, but the women around her were all smart people, and they immediately understood the reason why Yi Qing Luo had not released any profound qi from the start till the end. Their profound ranks were all recorded on the wooden tablet. The wooden token could also sense the fluctuation of the xian qi they used. If this matter were to be reported to the instructor, the wooden sign would show that it was indeed them who did it. Damn it! Yi Qing Luo was simply too black-bellied. She made them suffer, and they had to swallow it down. Huh? Don't tell me. You think what I said is wrong? Yi Qing Luo smiled again, but her eyes became especially cold and severe. Chapter 184. You all. Shangguan Liuli's face was gloomy. She had not expected these sisters, who were like biological sisters, to actually side with Yi Qing Luo at this moment. A wise man submits to circumstances. If 5th Miss Shangguan wants to tell the instructor about today's matter, I will naturally not haggle with you all if you all tell the instructor what you have seen. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly. Her charming eyes were filled with a devilish glint, covered with a layer of chilliness. Those few ladies hurriedly nodded their heads. They had never used their true feelings towards Shangguan Liuli. They had been fawning on her because of her identity. They had no intention to put themselves in danger because of Shangguan Liuli. Every man for himself will be destroyed by heaven and earth. What's more, Shangguan Liuli had tricked them to offend Yi Qing Luo, but she had never mentioned that although Yi Qing Luo was in the yellow profound 9th grade, but her ability was so powerful, and in the end, when Shangguan Liuli asked them to go up, she hid behind them. Seeing the 4 ladies being so obedient, Yi Qing Luo nodded her head in satisfaction. Now, put my things and Xiao Yu's things back in the room properly. Put them back in the same place as they were before. Shangguan Liuli was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. This hurried breathing made her chest that was thrown out by Yi Qing Luo even more painful. The cold sweat on her forehead rolled down one by one, as she fell onto the ground powerlessly. But those 4 ladies didn't even bother to look at Shangguan Liuli. One by one, they obediently picked up the things which were originally piled up in the corner, preparing to humiliate Yi Qing Luo. These rich young ladies had never done any hard work at home. To make them tidy up the room, it was like a war. Shangguan Liuli's things were thrown out one by one, whereas Yi Qing Luo led Lu Xiaoyu to sit leisurely on the chair, chatting. Aren't you afraid that these people will really complain to the instructor? Lu Xiaoyu was curious how Yi Qing Luo could be so confident. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled. Without evidence, they wouldn't dare, otherwise they would be seeking their own death. She pursued the principle of keeping a low profile, but it didn't mean that she would allow herself to be trampled on. She had only been in the academy for 2 days, but Shangguan Liuli had been looking for trouble with her. If she didn't intimidate Shangguan Liuli and the others now, she would have a hard time in the future. It would be better to solve it now. At least for a period of time in the future, she would be able to enjoy peace. Today was really satisfying. I passed the training, got the limelight, and even ate 2 big roast chickens. Now that I've seen such a good show, I have no regrets in life. Lu Xiaoyu hooked her arms around Yiqing Luo's neck and smiled with her eyes curved. Yiqing Luo stroked her head and glanced sideways at Shangguan Liuli, who was half kneeling on the ground with a face full of hatred, as a cold smile surfaced in her eyes. Life was the same. One had to be clear about who to be a good person in front of and who to be a bad person in front of. Approximately half an hour later, the four ladies had rearranged Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu's room neatly. Some of the things that they had broken before, they did not hesitate to go to their dormitory and replace them with their own things. Both of their rooms had been tidied up cleanly. On the contrary, the whole hall was in a mess, and Shangguan Liuli's things were piled up everywhere. After the few of them tidied themselves up, they wiped off the sweat on their foreheads and stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Chapter 185. The four ladies nodded their heads obediently. After getting Yiqing Luo's permission, they left the dormitory one by one. No one was willing to stay here for a while longer. Looking at these people, from the initial arrogant sneer to the current servility, Yiqing Luo sighed deeply in her heart. This was indeed a strange world where the strong were respected. If the one standing here today was another person, there was a high possibility that he would be tamed by Shangguan Liuli. But now, the ones who ran away with their tails between their legs were Shangguan Liuli and the rest, because she was strong enough to contend against Shangguan Liuli and the rest. The bigger the fist was the hard truth. She had to become stronger in order to survive in this strange world for a longer period of time. Qing Luo, then what about her? Lu Xiaoyu pointed at Shangguan Liuli, who was still kneeling on the ground. Let her. Yiqing Luo glanced at her indifferently and shifted her gaze away. You must be exhausted today, go back to your room and rest, I will call you at night. Lu Xiaoyu didn't reject. After running 5 rounds, even if she ate the roast chicken and was fully rejuvenated, the physical fatigue was still there. After the both of them returned to their room, Shangguan Liuli, who was sitting stiffly on the ground, blinked her eyes. After some time, she regained her senses. The whole room was in a mess, piled up with her things. Shangguan Liuli's breathing became hurried again. Covering her chest, there was a burst of pain followed by a wave. She twisted her head, looking at Yiqing Luo's tightly shut door. As she looked, her hands clenched into fists, blue veins popped out, her eyes were fierce and filled with murderous intent. Absolutely. Would not let Yiqing Luo off so easily. Absolutely not. Perhaps it was the physical fatigue, or perhaps it was in her sleep. She always felt a faintly discernible sandalwood scent lingering around her nose. Yiqing Luo's sleep was incomparably sweet. The moment she slept, it was already 7 p.m. It was Chi-Chi who used its tail to rub against Yiqing Luo's face, scratching her awake. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, meeting with Chi-Chi's pair of pitch-black tiger eyes. She was slightly stunned and suddenly remembered the smell she smelled in her dream. She quickly carried Chi-Chi and sat up straight. He looked around but didn't see the person he was thinking of. He took a deep sniff of the air, but the elegant sandalwood scent was nowhere to be found. There was no sign of him. She remembered that in her dream, there seemed to be a pair of warm palms gently covering her face. His slender fingers brushed aside the bangs on her forehead. His warm lips pressed against her forehead. Yiqing Luo could even remember clearly that when he kissed her, the scent that seeped into her nose and the warmth of his chest. But, was all of this really just a dream? Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped down slightly as her hand subconsciously caressed Chi-Chi's forehead. If she were to look at the copper mirror, she would discover that her current expression showed how disappointed she was. Qing Luo, I'm coming in. Outside the door, a rhythmic knocking sound was heard, followed by Lu Xiaoyu's clear and bright voice. Yiqing Luo's body shook violently as she quivered and regained her consciousness. She covered her cheeks with her hands, which were burning hot. She bit her pink lips tightly. She was extremely unfamiliar with her own reaction and felt ashamed. She actually dreamt of Diemo. After waking up, she still wanted to see him? She must be crazy. It must be Dmo Xian who had cast a curse on the profound jade heart in her body. Yiqing Luo patted her face, trying hard to lower her temperature. Chapter 186. This girl was really stubborn when it came to food. Yiqing Luo smiled helplessly. All right, I'll be right there. Why is your face so red, are you sick? Lu Xiaoyu's sharp eyes saw Yiqing Luo's red cheeks and immediately strode into the room. She stretched out her hand to grab Yiqing Luo's wrist in an attempt to feel her pulse. Yiqing Luo had already pulled her hand away and patted it lightly. I just woke up, it's just a little warm, let me freshen up. Lu Xiaoyu did not suspect anything. She stood at the side and teased Qiqi. After Yiqing Luo finished grooming, the temperature on her face had also dropped. The two of them walked out of the room together. The hall was still in a mess. Shangguan Liuli's things were scattered all over the floor, and Mo Yingyu, who had disappeared all this time, was sitting on a soft chair, shaking her legs. Hearing the sound of the door, Mo Yingyu turned her head. Under the slightly curled long hair, that pair of empty and soulless eyes locked onto Yiqing Luo. You must be my new roommate. My name is Lu Xiaoyu. Please take care of me in the future. It was Lu Xiaoyu's first time meeting Mo Yingyu. Mo Yingyu's Lolita attire made his face flush with cuteness. She walked up excitedly and extended her hand to Mo Yingyu. But Mo Yingyu's line of sight didn't move as she quietly stared at Yiqing Luo. She tilted her head and said word by word, "You are in trouble." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. What do you mean? Mo Yingyu turned her head, raised her hand, and pointed outside the dormitory. See for yourself. I'll go. Lu Xiaoyu withdrew her hand awkwardly because of Mo Yingyu's disregard. As soon as she heard the topic, she volunteered in order to ease the tense atmosphere. Lu Xiaoyu opened the door to the dormitory and wanted to see if there was a group of people waiting to take revenge for Shangguan Liuli. But just as he opened the door, a white piece of rice paper floated down. She caught the piece of paper, and her eyes were fixed on the Xian paper. Her brows immediately furrowed. What the hell is the faculty council? On what basis should I issue a challenge to Qing Luo? Letter of challenge? Interesting. She had just entered the academy and already received a letter of challenge. She really couldn't keep a low profile even if she wanted to. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and took the Xian paper from Lu Xiaoyu's hands with interest. The words were written in flamboyant calligraphy. The general meaning of these few hundred words was: as a new student, Yiqing Luo was always in the limelight and her behavior was too unreasonable. Therefore, the faculty council decided to observe Yiqing Luo for half a month. The faculty council would immediately expel Yiqing Luo out of the Heavenly Academy if they were to find any excessive behavior. The faculty council is equivalent to the academy's second-in-command, a clubhouse established by the students. All of the students' questions are first submitted to the faculty council, and then the president of the faculty council will report to the teacher or the dean. Mo Yingyu's voice was flat, sweet, and emotionless. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her heart understood. The faculty council here was probably the student council of her time. After reading this letter of challenge, Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. What was wrong with this world? She had passed the training, but became the limelight, and this was unreasonable? Could it be that all the new students had to give up the training midway, and this was considered as obedient? And to carry out half a month of observation. Damn it, was the faculty council sick? Chapter 187. Mo Yingyu tilted her head and said in a serious tone, "So, you are in trouble. Harassment?" Yiqing Luo curled her lips disapprovingly. If the faculty council wants to harass me, just send someone over. She wanted to see if this so-called faculty council really thought of themselves as the overlord of the students in the academy. Don't look down on the faculty council. Mo Yingyu's lips twitched slightly, revealing a strange smile. The president of the faculty council is a student of the class of gods. No matter how capable you are, you can't do anything to the students of the class of God. That little girl stood up slowly. The bell on her wrist made a melodious sound. The faculty council is targeting you. Perhaps it is the intention of the Shangguan family, or perhaps it is because your existence threatens their position. She walked towards her room, her pace was steady and her voice indifferent. Being targeted by the faculty council, I'm afraid your days are not going to be easy. With that, the door to the room closed, and the beautiful pink figure disappeared before their eyes. Lu Xiaoyu held Yi Qing Luo's arm, her eyes filled with worry. Class of Gods. Qing Luo, what should we do? The people from the class of gods are not as easy to deal with as Shangguan Luli. Just as Moing Yu said, the faculty council was targeting Yi Qing Luo. It was inevitable that other students would stay away from her. Moreover, those who were unhappy with Yi Qing Luo would also take the opportunity to attack her. It could be said that the faculty council's public announcement to Yi Qing Luo could totally destroy a freshman. Yi Qing Luo chuckled. She was indeed a freshman. But she was Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo would not be destroyed so easily. The faculty council is not the supreme existence. Above them, there are still the teachers' group and the director. As long as I am still a student, they will not dare to do anything to me. The faculty council could use various means to force her to leave the Heavenly Academy. Unless the faculty council had the absolute ability to make her disappear from the Heavenly Academy silently, otherwise, as long as she was still in the school, they would not dare to do anything. But the secret means of the faculty council, absolutely. Lu Xiaoyu pursed her lips. Her hand couldn't help but hold Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly. Seeing her frightened look, Yi Qing Luo curled her lips and touched her head. If anything happens to me, Master Gui, you will not stand by idly. Lu Xiaoyu was startled, and a smile finally appeared on her face. That's right, how could I forget? Yi Qing Luo was someone whom Master Gui Yu had specially picked to protect. Moreover, it was said that Yi Qing Luo was the disciple of the Overlord and had a close relationship with the Overlord. Seeing Lu Xiaoyu smile, Yi Qing Luo rubbed her head and walked out of the dormitory. Let's go eat something first. Lu Xiaoyu didn't notice that when Yi Qing Luo shifted her line of sight, her slender brows creased slightly and her charming eyes squinted slightly, revealing traces of biting cold intent. Let's go out and have a look. Let's see, what is this so-called faculty council? Both of them had just woken up and were taking a stroll around the academy garden. Along the way, all of the students, regardless of whether they were freshmen or seniors, looked shocked when they saw her. They pointed at her and said something to the people around them. Momentarily, Yi Qing Luo's low-profile life had once again attracted the attention of others. Basically, the entire academy had heard of her name. It was destined that she would not be able to keep a low profile. Those students, one by one, began to discuss about what they had heard about Yi Qing Luo. It could be said that everyone was no stranger to this name. Chapter 188. This new student who had just transferred here was the once infamous 7th young mistress. As for why this waste 7th missy could cultivate and become so powerful, everyone attributed it to the Overlord. Because, with the Overlord, any miracles were a matter of course. After the profound heart jade was restored, this freshman tried to kill her 4th sister during the ability assessment, exposing her using the Dark Forces item. Then, with old man Gui Yu's escort and the Overlord's personal appearance to express his support, it was a tacit acknowledgement of their master-disciple relationship. Following that, on the first day of school, she formed an enmity with one of the 4 great families, the Shangguan family. After that, she was targeted by the faculty council. In the entire school, who didn't know of Yi Qing Luo's name? Qing Luo. Don't you feel that their eyes are very disgusting? Lu Xiaoyu held Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly. Her face was extremely ugly. She always felt like an animal being surrounded by people. The two of them had just walked out of the garden and were about to head to the canteen when a group of people walked towards them. The two of them were led by 2 decent-looking beauties, dressed in green and white uniforms. The two of them stretched out their hands and were clustered around 7 to 8 male students. From the badge on their chest, it could be seen that these 7 to 8 people were students from the High Profound class. The High Profound class was the legendary place of the Heavenly Academy. All the students were trying their best to enter the High Profound class. Therefore, when the 7 to 8 students from the High Profound class appeared together, the entire garden was boiling. Everyone looked at them with admiration, just short of rushing up and begging for a handshake and signature. Yi Qing Luo? One of the beauties smiled slightly. Can you come with us? We have something to discuss with you. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows slightly, sizing up the group of people in front of her with interest. She was very clear that if she didn't go, these few people would use forceful means to force her to go over. To be able to mobilize the students from the High Profound class to personally invite her, other than the faculty council, no one else had this ability. Yi Qing Luo snorted lightly, revealing a hint of ridicule between her brows. The faculty council really gave her face. You all. Why are you looking for Qing Luo? She is a student of the academy, you have no right to bring her anywhere. Lu Xiaoyu saw that the situation was not right and immediately stood in front of Yi Qing Luo. Junior, don't be afraid. I just heard that one of the freshmen ran 5 laps and even got the approval of the 2 cold-faced instructors, Instructor Chu and Instructor He. I want to talk to her. The beauty smiled elegantly, but her smile did not reach her eyes. The other beauty casually stepped forward, so casually that Lu Xiaoyu didn't even have the slightest reaction before she was pushed away by the 2 beauties. The beauties stood on the left and right, sandwiching Yi Qing Luo in the middle. You guys are bullying a freshman, I'm going to tell the instructor. Lu Xiaoyu was pushed away and struggled to rush forward. Xiaoyu, it's fine. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and looked at Lu Xiaoyu as she shook her head. Go to the cafeteria to have your meal first, I'll chat with the senior sisters and come over in a while. These 2 beauties did not come with good intentions. The High Profound class was indeed the High Profound class. Just by standing beside her, Yi Qing Luo could feel a wave of pressure. Lu Xiaoyu was obviously frightened by such a scene, she could not drag Lu Xiaoyu into this. Qing Luo, they are obviously. You don't have to worry about it. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Chapter 189. Lu Xiaoyu stamped her feet anxiously, her face was full of anxiety. She twisted her fingers, watching Yi Qing Luo and the others gradually getting further and further away. She clenched her fist and turned to run in the other direction. Yi Qing Luo was sandwiched in the middle. The 2 beauties seemed to be intimate, but in fact, both of their palms were stuck on Yi Qing Luo's back. It seemed that as long as she had the slightest resistance, they would mercilessly strike her with their palms. The group of people didn't know how long stopped in a luxurious courtyard. To be able to build a personal independent courtyard in the academy, this place was definitely not an ordinary place. Sure enough, Yi Qing Luo saw a few big words written in flamboyant calligraphy. Faculty Council. Yi Qing Luo sneered. Her guess was right. These people were from the Faculty Council. The 7 High Profound class male students who followed behind stopped at the entrance of the Faculty Council. After the 2 beauties brought Yi Qing Luo into the Faculty Council, there were occasionally a few people from the Faculty Council passing by. When everyone saw these 2 beauties, they respectfully greeted, Vice President 4th Miss Lu. It could be seen how high the status of these 2 beauties in the Faculty Council. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes slightly. Should she feel proud? The dignified vice president personally went to pick her up? The 2 beauties led Yi Qing Luo and walked around the Faculty Council several times, probably to make Yi Qing Luo confused and unable to remember the way. However, they did not expect that Yi Qing Luo had the ability to remember everything she saw. Suddenly, the vice president stopped in her tracks and looked coldly at somewhere behind her. Someone is following us. 4th Miss Lu's expression changed. She didn't expect someone to follow them for so long without a sound. Second sister, can you sense who it is? The vice president's face sank, her 5 fingers suddenly pinched Yi-Ching Luo's face. Sure is not an ordinary waist, there is such a powerful guard beside you. Guard? Yi-Ching Luo suddenly understood. It was probably Wind who was arranged by Dmo Xian to protect her. She re-evaluated the vice president's strength in her heart. Her perceptive ability had exceeded the average person by many times, but she still couldn't sense the existence of Wind. This vice president actually discovered Wind's existence. Avoid it. The vice president quickly made a judgment, lifted Yi-Ching Luo up by the waist, and slammed her against the wall. As for 4th young Miss Lu, she leaped up and flew in the direction indicated by the vice president. Yi-Ching Luo originally thought that she would be treated as a meat patty and knocked against the wall. However, the moment her body touched the wall, she was sucked in by a suction force. There was a secret passage in the wall. Yi-Ching Luo was carried and swayed all the way. Until a ray of light appeared in front of her, Yi-Ching Luo squinted her eyes. Inside the secret passage there were actually 7 or 8 vertical secret passages. Every secret passage was guarded by guards dressed in black. The vice president took the middle corridor. After walking for a while, he arrived at a room at the end. Just as she pushed the door open, Yi-Ching Luo saw Shangguan Liuli sitting by the side, beaming with delight. President, I've already invited student Yi over. The vice president put down Yi-Ching Luo and his voice turned gentle. The room was very simple. There were 2 bookshelves, a wooden table and a few wooden chairs. And in front of the wooden table, the person who was reading the official documents raised his head slightly when he heard the voice. That was an extremely delicate and elegant young man. He was dressed in a green and white uniform, with a green belt tied around his waist. His hair was fixed by a jade crown inlaid with jade bead. That pair of eyes seemed to be plated with a layer of moisture, as if it could immerse people in his gentleness, unable to extricate themselves. Chapter 190. You are student Yi-Ching Luo? The man put down the brush in his hand and spoke calmly. His voice, like his appearance, was as gentle as water. He was such an elegant and handsome man, even his smile was like a spring breeze, which made one's heart feel as if it was lingering in spring water. But Yi-Ching Luo's cells, at this moment, tensed up. This man was definitely not what he looked like on the surface. His body exuded an extremely strong evil aura. It was a vicious aura that could not be concealed no matter how he put on a gentle mask. Yi-Ching Luo frowned, her heart raised some vigilance. What do you want to talk about? The man slightly hooked his lips, smiling elegantly. Student Yi, don't be nervous, relax. Today I invited you to the faculty council. There is no malicious intention. Just received a report from student Shangguan, so I specially look for student Yi to verify the situation. Invitation? The moment he came up, one on the left and one on the right, this was called an invitation? Yi-Ching Luo snorted coldly, glancing at Shangguan Luli. She secretly thought, how did Shangguan Luli get involved with the faculty council? Her vision turned and saw Shangguan Fang Yi standing in the corner, with a somewhat complacent smile on his lips. She immediately understood the reason. Shangguan Fang Yi was a high profound class student. Naturally he had contact with the vice president. Shangguan Fang Yi was a senior student in the academy for a few years, so his relationship with the faculty council was absolutely not bad. It turned out that Shangguan Fang Yi wanted to stand up for his sister. Yi-Ching Luo frowned, slowly rubbed her wrist. This is the way the president invites students. I have learned something. Don't be so shameless. The vice president's face sunk, raised his hand and swung it towards Yi-Ching Luo's face. Yi-Ching Luo still remembered that the vice president had pinched her jaw. This action, other than Dmo Xian, no one else could tolerate it. Who stipulated that in the faculty council, in other people's territory, she had to be restrained. There was no way for her to obediently take a beating. Seeing that the vice president's hand was about to fall on Yi-Ching Luo's face, Yi-Ching Luo's figure suddenly flashed, raised her hand and was about to counterattack. Suddenly, he felt a cold wind blowing in front of him. It was filled with a murderous aura. Yiqing Luo was shocked, somersaulted into the air, avoiding that profound qi. She lifted her eyes and looked in the president's direction. He retracted his sleeves, a gentle smile on his face. Let's talk things out. Don't fight. Yes, President. The vice president's cheeks were slightly red. She obediently withdrew her hand and walked to the president's side. I am the president of the faculty council, Si Yen Mu. Yuer's way of doing things is indeed a little too extreme, but this is also for the sake of harmony in the academy. Si Yen Mu's lips curled up into a smile, and his fair palm rested on the wooden table. When that pair of warm eyes met with Yiqing Luo only felt a burst of coldness attacking her entire body. She couldn't help but tremble. According to Student Shangguan's report, after Student Shangguan entered the dormitory, you wanted to drive her out of the dormitory, and after the assessment, you threw her things in the hall and did not allow her to sleep in the room. Is this true? When Si Yen Mu finished asking these questions, Shangguan Luli, who was sitting by the side, covered her face and sobbed. President, you are the god in the hearts of the students. The instructor likes ye 7th Miss, and will not listen to Luli's words. Luli can only seek help from you, you must help Luli. Chapter 191. The existence of the Faculty Council is to provide students with a harmonious learning environment. Si Yen Mu smiled brightly and slowly got up. That green and white uniform made his figure look slender and straight. The same academy uniform had a completely different effect on different people. Shangguan Fangyi was already considered as a handsome and elegant young master, but Si Yen Mu stood beside him. In an instant, Shangguan Fangyi's brilliance was overshadowed. Si Yen Mu slowly walked in front of Yiqing Luo and stood still. Squinting his eyes, as if sizing up goods, he scanned Yiqing Luo from head to toe. The freshman Yiqing Luo. The power released by a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator was far beyond that of a yellow profound cultivator. Lu Shuiyu could be by his side as his vice president. Her strength was naturally not to be underestimated. But just now, Yiqing Luo actually avoided Lu Shuiyu's slap and hit back instead. If it wasn't for him, this slap would have landed on Lu Shuiyu's face. Si Yen Mu's eyes flickered slightly. No wonder the one above pointed out to him to pay attention to Yiqing Luo. The existence of such an uncontrollable person was indeed a threat. Have you seen enough? Yiqing Luo hated this kind of scrutinizing gaze, as if she had been peeled off completely and seen into the depths of her heart. This feeling of being peeped at was very uncomfortable. No, Student Yi is a rare beauty. How could I have seen enough? Si Yen Mu smiled warmly. These words, no matter how one listened, had a hint of ridicule. But when it came out from Si Yen Mu's mouth, it seemed so reasonable. This kind of gentle and refined appearance was indeed a sharp weapon for killing. And after Si Yen Mu finished his sentence, Lu Shuiyu, who was standing by the wooden table, her face suddenly turned extremely ugly. A pair of fierce eyes stared jealously at Yiqing Luo. Cut the crap, the faculty council can develop to this stage today. Presumably the president is also a reasonable person. Who is right and who is wrong, the president should know better than anyone else. Yiqing Luo sneered. She didn't care about Si Yen Mu deliberately aroused Lu Shuiyu's hostility towards her. Anyway, whether Si Yen Mu did this or not, Lu Shuiyu had already regarded her as an enemy. Arrogant indeed. Si Yen Mu narrowed his eyes. Student Yi, don't you know that it is not good for you to be so arrogant in someone else's territory? I haven't done anything more arrogant yet. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curved upwards as a smile bloomed on her lip. That smile was peerless and magnificent, especially that pair of bewitching eyes, which curved into a long and enchanting arc, made people even more intoxicated by her smile. Even Si Yen Mu was slightly stunned by this smile. And it was precisely because of this daze, which gave Yiqing Luo an opportunity to take advantage of. She spread her fingers and the glowing flame fan appeared on her fingertip. Without any fancy moves, Yiqing Luo leaned close to Si Yenmu, lifted her elbow and with a twist of her body, the feather fan was already on Si Yenmu's neck. A sharp knife was hidden in the feather fan. A slight movement and Si Yenmu's arteries would be cut. Yiqing Luo's action was so fast that no one could react. No matter how fast Si Yenmu's reaction was, he didn't expect Yiqing Luo to be so daring and arrogant. Yiqing Luo, how dare you hold the president hostage? Do you not want to mingle in the academy anymore? Lu Shuiyu's face was ferocious, gritting her teeth and pointing at Yiqing Luo. Chapter 192. The faculty council is clearer than anyone else about the matters in the academy, and the president coerced me to come here. It is nothing more than to fight for the Shangguan family's reputation. Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly, her eyes were filled with contempt. If I hold you hostage, I will die. If I don't, I will still die. Since that's the case, why don't I drag you down with me? The few of them couldn't refute what she said. On the contrary, Si Yenmu, whose artery was pressed by the feather fan, looked as indifferent as ever. But deep in his heart, he was somewhat interested in Yiqing Luo. Since student Yi is a straightforward person, I shall not say any more nonsense. Si Yenmu raised his head slightly. The sharp blade on the handle of the fan instantly cut his skin. A drop of blood slid down along the feather fan. Si Yenmu frowned in pain. You think I don't dare to make a move? Yiqing Luo's feather fan rotated and switched to the other side of Si Yenmu's neck. The cold fan handle floated around his neck slightly. She snorted lightly, her eyes overflowed with some seductive light, her voice was suppressed, revealing a very charming voice. I am a madman. Once I am unhappy, my hand will shake, and this shake, the knife will not have eyes. Let's make a bet, see if I kill you first, then easily escape from the faculty council, or I kill you, then your people catch me. When these words came out, the few people around were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Damn, this was too arrogant. Kill at the slightest disagreement. Even daring to kill the president of the faculty council. Lu Shuiyu and the rest absolutely believed that Yiqing Luo was serious in what she said. Bet or not? Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, smiling charmingly. But this time, this smile, in the eyes of the crowd, there was no ripple like before. Instead, they felt that this smile came from hell. A freshman actually had such a powerful aura and oppressive force. Even if they had experienced hundreds of battles, they were also terrified. If such a freshman was allowed to grow, how terrifying would he be in the future? Especially, this freshman would definitely be an enemy in the future. Si Yenmu's expression was calm. He looked down and met with Yiqing Luo's enchanting eyes. As their eyes met, Si Yenmu revealed a very shallow smile. Just like his usual gentle smile, it made people feel warm. His watery eyes seemed to be able to dispel all the coldness. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk as her fingers tightened. Sure enough, the next moment, Si Yenmu's figure fell backwards. His hands raised upwards and turned into a palm wind, gently patting towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That palm strike was extremely strange. As he moved, it was impossible to determine the direction of his palm. Yiqing Luo had already made preparations the moment she saw that strange smile on his face. The minute he moved, Yiqing Luo followed closely. She agilely dodged his palm strike, and the feather fan at the tip of her fingers still stuck close to his neck. When Si Yenmu's palm wind became swift and fierce, aiming at Yiqing Luo's movement, he struck down with his palm. Yiqing Luo flipped over and went behind Si Yenmu. She lifted her leg and gave his ass a kick. Si Yenmu staggered a few steps and half knelt on the ground, almost falling flat on his face. Since young, Si Yenmu had always been a proud son of heaven, growing up in the envy and support of everyone. His amazing talent and ability to cultivate profound qi, it was destined that he had never been bullied by anyone. Si Yenmu wiped the blood stains on his neck. His gaze gradually turned cold. Unexpectedly, The first person to injure him was a yellow profound ninth-grade freshman. His self-esteem had suffered a serious blow. Chapter 193. A murderous look flashed across Si Yen Mu's eyes. He wanted to kill Yiqing Luo, kill this freshman who made him lose face. Si Yen Mu clenched his fists and profound qi burst out of his body. An oppressive pressure that made one's heart sink instantly pressed down on them. Shangguan Liuli, who was at the lower profound grade, could not withstand such pressure, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from her throat. Even Shangguan Fangyi's face had turned a little pale. Not to mention Yiqing Luo, who was only at the yellow profound grade. No matter how strong her potential was, with the protection of the divine weapon and the sacred beast, but the profound grade was still there. When Si Yen Mu's pressure swept over, Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that there was a huge stone in her chest, pressing hard on her heart. Sinking bit by bit, her throat was filled with a fishy sweetness. She took a deep breath, her charming eyes suddenly became piercingly cold, and with a leap she headed towards the direction of Si Yen Mu. The feather fan unfolded, rolled up a wave of air, lingering around her. Although this wave of air could not help Yiqing Luo to resist the pressure released by Si Yen Mu, but it could more or less resist some of the pressure. Student Yi, don't be too arrogant, let me teach you the principle of there is always someone better than you. Si Yen Mu still had this smile on his face, but between his eyes, there were two rays of piercingly cold light. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, unable to see through Si Yen Mu's profound jade heart. But from the pressure of the profound grade, she could feel it. Si Yen Mu was definitely a profound cultivator of the Earth profound grade. Earth profound, no wonder he was the president of the faculty council. His strength was so strong. If she had known earlier, she should not have kicked his butt, she should have directly kicked his front. Yiqing Luo held her breath, watching Si Yen Mu's movements with vigilance, ready to cast the teleportation secret technique at any time. Originally, she did not intend to reveal her trump card too early. After all, before her strength matured, if she revealed her trump card, wouldn't the enemy be prepared to guard against her? Hiding her own unique skill was to give herself another way to save her life. But now, Yiqing Luo had no other choice. Si Yen Mu looked at Yiqing Luo with a sneer, hoping to see panic and fear on her face, begging for mercy. However, he was disappointed. There was no expression on Yiqing Luo's face, only a pair of narrow long eyes, staring sharply at him. Si Yen Mu's eyes turned cold. How dare she look down on him? His 5 fingers suddenly spread open, and a stream of profound energy condensed in his palm. Immediately, an even more powerful aura filled the room and merged with the air. Waves of air began to distort in the air, forming layers of ripples. This power was so strong that it was suffocating. Yiqing Luo moved her feet and was about to cast her teleportation and follow the path in her memory to escape from the faculty council. Suddenly, the president's room's door was kicked open and a white figure, like lightning, speedily dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. Si Yen Mu, do you not want to be the president anymore? How dare you touch the person I want to protect? Old man Gui Yu's face was gloomy and his eyes were sharp as he stared coldly at Si Yen Mu. He raised one hand and easily suppressed the profound qi released by Si Yen Mu. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. The white robe hanging loosely on the frail little body in front of her seemed to be hanging on his body. Usually, he was crazy and didn't care about anything, but at this moment, he stood in front of her without hesitation to protect and defend her. Chapter 194. Master Gui Yu? Si Yen Mu was shocked. His attack was easily intercepted by old man Gui Yu. Si Yen Mu had been in the Heavenly Academy for such a long time and was the president of the faculty council. Nothing in the academy could escape his eyes. But only Gui Yu, he could not figure it out. Gui Yu's position in the academy was extremely strange. He did not teach any classes and did not make any contribution to the Heavenly Academy. All he did was drink and wander around the academy. but all the teachers kept a respectful distance from Old Man Guiyu. Even if they met, the masters would lower their statuses and be gentle towards Old Man Guiyu. In the 6 years in the academy, Si Yen Mu had never seen Guiyu in action. He did not know how strong Guiyu's profound level and ability were. This time, he finally experienced it personally. Did you ask for my permission before bringing the person I want to protect to the faculty council? Guiyu grabbed Si Yen Mu's collar and slapped him on the face. He did not give Si Yen Mu any face. President! Lu Shuiyu was scared and ran over quickly, trying to stop Guiyu. But how could her speed be faster than Guiyu? Only to hear a clear and crisp slap, Si Yen Mu's face had an additional scarlet palm print. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Si Yen Mu's mouth and splashed on Lu Shuiyu's face. Not sure if it was because Si Yen Mu was shocked by the first slap in his life, or because he was scared by the blood on his face. Lu Shuiyu stood rooted to the ground with a face full of blood. Guiyu released Si Yen Mu's collar. As soon as the 5 fingers loosened, Si Yen Mu's body was flung into the air, rolled a few times in the air, and fell heavily on Shangguan Liuli. Guiyu's strength was strong. Si Yen Mu's impact pressed Shangguan Liuli and Shangguan Fangyi on his body, and the 3 of them rolled into a ball. A few screams were heard and Lu Shuiyu suddenly regained her senses. She wiped the blood on her face with one hand and said, "Master Guiyu, the president invited student Yi over to verify some information. This is also to ensure the harmony of the student. I, your father's men, have the final say in whether they are harmonious or not." Old Man Guiyu spat and scratched his messy hair. "I only know that if anyone dares to touch the person I'm protecting, I'll cripple him first." Lu Shuiyu was speechless. It was impossible to reason with Old Man Guiyu. In Old Man Guiyu's eyes, no matter how big the world was, it couldn't be bigger than his wishes, it couldn't beat his likes. He was the law. Lu Shuiyu suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart. Her cold eyes swept to the side and fixed on the moment when Si Yen Mu was pressing down on Shangguan Liuli's body. Her eyes suddenly became cold. She snorted and walked quickly towards Si Yen Mu's direction. That damned Shangguan Liuli, she actually took the opportunity to seduce the president. Old Man Guiyu turned around and looked at Yi Qing Luo from head to toe to make sure that she was not hurt at all and heaved a sigh of relief. "You lass, you clearly know that the other party has bad intentions, but you still obediently follow them. I say you're smart, but you're as dumb as a pig at the critical moment. If it wasn't for your roommate who found me, you wouldn't be able to walk out of this faculty council today." Yi Qing Luo smiled and took the initiative to hold Old Man Guiyu's arm. Yes, thanks to Master Guiyu's timely arrival. Old Man Guiyu got the praise and raised his head proudly. He snorted and said, "Look for me if there's anything, I'll help you solve it anytime." This look was exactly like an old urchin. Yi Qing Luo looked towards the direction of Si Yen Mu. Lu Shuiyu had lifted him up with one hand and pushed Shangguan Liuli hard. Chapter 195. Shangguan Liuli was implicated even though she was lying down. With such a heavy pressure from Si Yen Mu, his internal organs were almost squeezed out. Before she could get up, she was slapped down by Lu Shuiyu again. Shangguan Liuli wanted to cry but had no tears, lying on the ground with no energy to get up. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly. "Master Guiyu, you are quite good at diverting the trouble." Anyone could tell that Lu Shuiyu was in love with Si Yen Mu to the point of being sick. Just like before, Si Yen Mu merely praised her and Lu Shuiyu couldn't wait to kill her with her eyes. What's more, Old Man Guiyu directly threw Si Yen Mu onto Shangguan Liuli. Skin-to-skin contact, Si Yen Mu was still on top of Shangguan Liuli. Lu Shuiyu hated Shangguan Liuli to the core. Shangguan Liuli probably never dreamed that she would ask her brother to seek revenge from the president of the faculty council. Not only did she not seek revenge, she had also made a powerful enemy in the academy. "What diverting trouble, I just casually threw you away." Old man Gui Yu's sharp eyes glanced at Shangguan Luli, who was lying on the ground crying out in pain with a disdainful look. Well, she had overestimated old man Gui Yu. Lu Shuiyu wanted to help Si Yen Mu back to the wooden chair, but Si Yen Mu waved his hand and stopped her. Si Yen Mu held Lu Shuiyu's wrist tightly and with her strength. He slowly walked to the front of old man Gui Yu. Master Gui Yu, I have been busy with the Academy's affairs these days and do not know much about the outside world, and did not know that student Yi is your student. Si Yen Mu said word by word. While he was speaking, his lips moved and the muscles on his face were twitching, causing a burst of pain. Si Yen Mu was filled with anger and his pride was being trampled on, but he still had to be polite. Today, third young Master Shangguan mentioned that fifth Miss Shangguan was bullied in the dormitory and suffered from bullying in the academy. As the president of the faculty council, my responsibility is to maintain the peace of the academy, so I invited student Yi over to verify the situation. This blame was directly thrown to Shangguan Fangyi. Shangguan Fangyi was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He covered his painful abdomen, grimaced in pain, and didn't dare to say anything. If I knew that student Yi was your student, I definitely wouldn't dare to act rashly. Teacher, please forgive me for causing this misunderstanding. In the Heavenly Academy, the status of the masters was higher than the students. He had always believed in the principle of respecting one's teacher. Because of this, no matter how strong the students were, even if they were from the high profound class, they would still have to greet a teacher with a horizontal bar. Especially when they were up against the temperamental and mysterious Gui Yu. Si Yen Mu was able to become the president of the faculty council, so naturally, he was not a fool. A wise man submits to circumstances. When it's time to be a coward, one should be a coward. Old man Gui Yu sneered. If you don't know how to be the president, then let my Luo lass take over. His words stirred up tens of thousands of waves. The entire room fell into a deathly silence. Yiqing Luo was also shocked. Give the president to her? Are you sure you're not joking? Teacher Gui Yu, the position of the president must be voted by all the students and teachers in the academy. I have been the president of the faculty council for 4 years, and I have done my best for the affairs of the faculty council. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Old man Gui Yu dug his ears impatiently and dozed off after listening to Si Yen Mu's long-winded speech. If you can be the president, then do a good job, if not, get lost. Chapter 196. Alright, I'll bring you back first, your roommate is worried about you. When he faced Yiqing Luo, he had a kind face, but when he turned to Si Yen Mu, he immediately turned fierce. Since Luo lass is not interested in the position of president, I will let you continue to sit on it. After that, he pulled Yiqing Luo's arm, turned around and walked away suavely. The few people behind did not dare to step forward to stop them. After the figures of old man Gui Yu and Yiqing Luo disappeared at the door, the expression on Si Yen Mu's face suddenly changed. His pair of gentle eyes were covered with a touch of hostility. He clenched his fists and his chest violently rose and fell. The burning pain on his face declared the humiliation he had suffered today. President! Lu Shuiyu helped Si Yen Mu back to the wooden chair and took out a handkerchief to wipe the wound on his face. Si Yen Mu's muscles twitched in pain, the haze in his eyes deepened. The palm on the wooden table clenched into a fist, the blue veins popping out. This freshman is too arrogant. If we don't stop her now, when she grows up, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to the faculty council. Lu Shuiyu looked at Si Yen Mu with distress, took out the medicine and applied it. Si Yen Mu was very clear about this point. What the faculty council was most afraid of was a student that they could not control. Once out of control, it would easily cause trouble to the faculty council. What's more, the people above had instructed him to keep a close eye on Yiqing Luo. Now that he had failed to subdue Yiqing Luo, it would be a huge loss of face. With old man Gui Yu protecting Yiqing Luo, His task would be difficult to complete. Oh yes, President, there seems to be a secret guard protecting Yiqing Luo. That guard's strength is very high. He followed all the way into the faculty council before I was alerted. Lu Shuiyu recalled the hidden guard and her heart was in her throat. Other than Si Yenmu, there was no one else who could escape her senses. Find someone to keep an eye on her. Si Yenmu's fingers scratched his cheek, his eyes darkened. This freshman's background was absolutely not simple. As they walked out of the main entrance of the faculty council, the students coming and going looked at them. Yiqing Luo and Old Man Guiyu walked side by side. Old Man Guiyu was talking about her. The students who came and went were all very surprised. The news of Yiqing Luo being issued a statement by the faculty council to keep an eye on her for half a month had spread throughout the entire academy. Everyone knew that this new student who had just entered the academy had become famous and was being targeted by the faculty council. Moreover, not long ago, Yiqing Luo was invited by the vice president to the faculty council under everyone's watchful eyes. The news spread like wildfire. The students all thought that even if Yiqing Luo returned from the faculty council, she would probably have her thorns removed and become extremely obedient. But now Yiqing Luo was actually unscathed, swaggering out of the faculty council. He was even talking and laughing with Old Man Guiyu. Could it be this new student had joined hands with Teacher Guiyu to give the faculty council a show of strength? Qing Luo, are you all right? Lu Xiaoyu, who had been guarding the door, anxiously walked over and pulled Yiqing Luo over, sizing her up. Thanks to you calling the teacher in time, I'm fine. Yiqing Luo shook her head and patted Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder. The two of them chatted for a while. Seeing that it was getting late and both of them were hungry, they bade farewell to Old Man Guiyu and went to the cafeteria. In the cafeteria, they were baptized by a wave of students' gazes. Remembering that there was a more rigorous training tomorrow morning, the two of them returned to the dormitory after their meal. The things in the dormitory hall had been tidied up. Chapter 197. She was forced to change the dormitory. Emoing Yu's lips twitched slightly, curving into an arc. This was the first time Yiqing Luo saw a smile on this adorable face. Lu Xiaoyu blinked her eyes and laughed gloatingly. Isn't there a strict rule that no student is allowed to change dormitory? Lu Xiaoyu's question made the hatred in Shangguan Lu Li's eyes deepen. But Shangguan Lu Li still held back her anger and swallowed it down. She staggered out of the dormitory with a lot of things in her arms. When she reached the door, Shangguan Lu Li gritted her teeth and turned her head to glare at Yiqing Luo. You can't be arrogant for long, just you wait. After that, she strode out of the dormitory. Her lifted legs suddenly tripped over something. Shangguan Lu Li's body fell uncontrollably to the ground and the luggage on her flew out. Ha ha ha, a few giggles came from the door. She saw a few beautiful girls in the academy uniform standing at the door, looking at Shangguan Lu Li with ridicule. You guys. Shangguan Lu Li's eyes turned red with anger as she quickly climbed up from the ground and pointed at those girls angrily. How dare you trip me? Are you tired of living? This kind of trick had always been used by her to trick others. Since when was it someone else's turn to trick her? Shangguan Lu Li, you have to remember, this is the Heavenly Academy, not your Shangguan family. The girls laughed. If you want to throw a tantrum, go back to your Shangguan family. This is not a place for you to behave atrociously. Shangguan Lu Li's little face flushed red. Since young, when had she suffered such grievances? Ever since she came to the academy and met Yiqing Luo, she had been bullied. Yiqing Luo was simply her nemesis. The hatred and disgust towards Yiqing Luo grew deeper and deeper. Yiqing Luo's brows raised slightly as her charming eyes wandered to the few girls at the door and fixed on their badges. The one in front was a student from the high profound class. The two behind were students from the intermediate profound class. These senior students actually came to her dormitory? Those young ladies who were laughing loudly as they watched Shangguan Liuli pick up the parcel on the ground and fled, noticed Yi Qing Luo's line of sight and immediately turned their heads over, as a fawning smile hung on their faces. Student Yi, the vice president has already reported the matter between you and Shangguan Liuli to the academy. The academy has allowed Shangguan Liuli to change her dormitory. The girl from the high profound class was Lu Shuiyu's follower, Jin Ran. Someone from the faculty council? Yi Qing Luo lifted her eyelids as she sneered at Jin Ran's fawning smile. The faculty council was really aggrieved this time. He was injured and humiliated, yet he still had to smile and serve her. A person like Si Yenmu, would he be willing? Yi Qing Luo didn't believe it. From Si Yenmu's eyes, Yi Qing Luo could see his ambition and strong self-esteem. He would not let her off so easily. Who's your new roommate? Lu Xiaoyu beamed with joy. She suddenly felt that the air in the dormitory had become fresh after Shangguan Liuli, that annoying woman was gone. Jin Ran smiled. That depends on the arrangement of the academy, the new roommate should be here later. Was it the arrangement of the academy or the faculty council? This needed to be investigated. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she smiled faintly. Thank you for your concern, there's training tomorrow morning, Xiaoyu and I have to rest first, so we won't be sending you off. Jin Ran's smile stiffened. She wanted to take the opportunity to enter the dormitory and get some information from Yi Qing Luo. Thinking of the task that Lu Shuiyu assigned, Jin Ran forced a smile. Student Yi, it's still early. Chapter 198. Yi Qing Luo didn't give Jin Ran any face as she turned around and left. When the room door was closed, Jin Ran was still standing at the entrance of the dormitory, stunned. The two intermediate profound class girls behind her also opened their mouths wide in shock. Rumor had it that this freshman was very arrogant. After seeing her today, she was indeed arrogant. She didn't even give face to the senior from the high profound class. No wonder the vice president asked people to keep an eye on this freshman. Lu Xiaoyu's delicate face revealed a smile and made an inviting gesture. Senior sister must have worked hard to come here, would you like to come in and have a seat? Jin Ran wanted to go in and have a seat. But staring at Yi Qing Luo's tightly shut door, she had no intention to open it. Her target was Yi Qing Luo. Without Yi Qing Luo, it would be a waste of time to stay here. Jin Ran shook her head and led the two followers out of the dormitory. Yi Qing Luo returned to her room and heard the footsteps of Jin Ran and the other two leaving. Her lips curled up into a faint cold arc. Jin Ran's purpose in coming to the dormitory, she was naturally clear. The people from the faculty council probably hated her to the core, but they couldn't do anything about it. With old man Guiyu's appearance today to protect her, the faculty council wouldn't dare to find trouble with her in the future. But the constant harassment and flattery was still a little annoying. Yi Qing Luo sat by the bed and looked down at the cherry blossom pattern on her wrist. Her fingertips touched it lightly. Her consciousness entered the azure dew bracelet. Old man Tsang was lying leisurely on the thin mist, dressed in a white robe, as if he was one with the mist. Hearing the sound, old man Tsang glanced sideways. Yo, lass, how come you have time to visit me today? These words were too sour. No matter how slow Yi Qing Luo's reaction was, she could smell the strong vinegar. Old man Tsang, did you miss me? Yi Qing Luo raised a smile and walked under the mist, looking up at the old man in white robe. Old man Tsang landed lightly and stood in front of Yi Qing Luo. Miss you? I don't need to wait on you, it's very comfortable, why would I miss you? Old man Tsang, who was in the azure dew bracelet, could see everything through Yi Qing Luo's eyes. He knew clearly what happened to Yi Qing Luo these days. Thinking up to this point, old man Tsang's expression turned cold and he heavily snorted. His white beard was blown by the wind, causing it to sway endlessly. Now there's a flesh old man who wants to take you as a disciple, why don't you agree? Yi Qing Luo tilted her head. Master Guiyu? Old man Tsang coldly snorted. He has flesh and blood, and he can even appear and save you when you are in the most danger. If you become his disciple, it won't be bad for you. Yiqing Luo finally understood the meaning behind Old Man Tsang's words. Old Man Tsang was jealous of Old Man Guiyu. Old Man Qing Luo was. Luo Old Man Luo. Her lips curled into a smile, and she stepped forward to hold Old Man Tsang's arm. Within the Azure Dew bracelet, Old Man Tsang had used the Azure Dew bracelet's spiritual energy to create a physical body. She rested her head on Old Man Tsang's shoulder. Her voice was clear and elegant. A teacher for a day, a teacher for a lifetime. From the moment I made a contract with the Azure Dew bracelet, in my heart, you are my only master. That was the reason why she didn't agree. In Yiqing Luo's heart, Old Man Tsang was her master. If it wasn't for Old Man Tsang, she, who had reincarnated into a different world, wouldn't have been able to get used to this kind of life in such a short amount of time. I respect Master Guiyu because he is worthy of my respect. I can't deny that I like his character, so I sent Xiao Yu to him. Chapter 199. Yiqing Luo sincerely respected Old Man Guiyu. Adhering to the principle of keeping the goodies within the family, she brought Yi Fengyu to Old Man Guiyu. Of course, as the direct descendant of the Three Springs sect, Yi Fengyu's aptitude and innate talent were definitely not bad. Especially during those days in Three Springs sect, Yiqing Luo had assigned him daily training tasks. With the assistance of Yiqing Luo's medicinal pills, his profound heart jade had also improved. Old Man Guiyu cherished talent and wanted to have a close relationship with Yiqing Luo. Naturally, he agreed to accept Yi Fengyu as his disciple. As for becoming Old Man Guiyu's disciple, Yiqing Luo had never thought about it. You've just entered the academy, and you've already learned a glib tongue. Old Man Tsang sneered, but the expression on his face eased up. Yiqing Luo saw that Old Man Tsang's jealousy had dissipated by quite a bit, and her vision looked towards the dragon god cauldron that was standing not too far away. His lips curled into a determined smile. I will work hard to raise my alchemy level, reconstruct your physical body, and return you your freedom. Old Man Tsang felt that his heart, which had been empty for 1,000 years, actually trembled fiercely. His body was stiff and tense under the white robe. He had not expected Yiqing Luo to have such an idea. Reconstruct his body. He had never thought that he would be able to regain his freedom. However, Old Man Tsang believed it. To Yiqing Luo, nothing was impossible. Miracles could be seen on Yiqing Luo. Old Man Tsang closed his eyes and held Yiqing Luo's hand. All right, I'll wait for you. Yiqing Luo softened her voice and coaxed Old Man Tsang with a few words. Old Man Tsang couldn't take it anymore, so he rushed Yiqing Luo to cultivate. Xian Qi was something that had to be cultivated diligently in order to be able to freely circulate Xian Qi during actual combat. After not cultivating for 2 days, Yiqing Luo settled her heart and sat cross-legged on the stone block. Inside the Azure Dew bracelet was the most suitable place for Yiqing Luo to cultivate. When she started to gather the surrounding spiritual qi, the entire space's spiritual qi started to surge towards Yiqing Luo's direction bit by bit. 1 heavenly cycle, 2 heavenly cycles. The absorbed spiritual energy revolved around his profound jade heart and slowly merged into it. Time flew by unknowingly. While Yiqing Luo was meditating, she vaguely felt that she had grasped onto something. It was an extremely subtle feeling that disappeared in a flash. Barrier. It was a barrier to advancement. Yiqing Luo was ecstatic. She was stuck at the Yellow Mystic 9th grade, unable to break through no matter what. Today, while he was meditating, he had managed to grab hold of this barrier. The opportunity to level up had come. The moment Yiqing Luo got excited, the spiritual qi became even more turbulent and rushed towards Yiqing Luo. An overwhelming amount of qi enveloped Yiqing Luo in it. That barrier to advancement seemed to be right in front of her, as if she could grab it with a single stretch of her hand. Just at this moment, Yi-Ching Luo's expression suddenly changed. With his sharp senses, he felt a murderous aura rising in the surroundings. Killing intent? Yi-Ching Luo sunk her profound qi into her profound jade heart and gave up on the chance to continue capturing the barrier's advancement. Her spiritual consciousness quickly returned to her body. She suddenly opened her eyes. There was no light in the pitch-black room. Outside the dormitory, there was a stream of air drifting in along with the wind. From afar, in just a few steps, he had already entered her room. Judging from his footsteps and movements, it shouldn't be his first time sneaking into a room. That unfamiliar aura was getting closer and closer. Yi-Ching Luo narrowed her eyes as she could faintly see a well-built figure slowly approaching her bedside. Chapter 200. The murderous aura gradually thickened as the killer approached. The cold moonlight shone through the half-opened window. The killer raised the big knife in his hand, reflecting a cold gleam under the moonlight. At the same time, Yi-Ching Luo turned over and stood up. The feather fan in her hand unfolded and drew a slight wave of profound qi. However, her profound qi dissipated into thin air as it floated towards the killer. Yi-Ching Luo frowned, staring at the killer vigilantly, and was about to jump off the bed. A palm-sized hairy ball leaped in from the window. Its bright tiger eyes met with Yi-Ching Luo's. The claws that were raised in midair suddenly froze. The little body couldn't keep its balance and fell from the windowsill. Yi-Ching Luo didn't have time to shout out. Suddenly an elegant sandalwood scent filled her nose. A strong and powerful arm circled around Yi-Ching Luo's slender waist. With a thump, the killer fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Yi-Ching Luo's body was pressed down on the bed. A man's low and scorching breath came into her ears. "Ah Luo, did you miss me?" "Diamo Xian." Yi-Ching Luo put her hands on his chest. "Get out of my way." This man, why did he want to take advantage of her the moment he appeared? And this time he directly pressed her down on the bed. What was he trying to do? If someone pushed the door open at this time. Damn, she couldn't wash herself clean even if she jumped into the Yellow River. Diamo Xian put one arm on Yi-Ching Luo's shoulder, the other hand stroked the hair on her forehead. "I miss you." "Miss your head? Didn't we just see each other last night?" Yi-Ching Luo turned her head away grumpily. This was the opening line every time. As if he really missed her. "Ah Luo, you are in trouble." Diamo Xian chuckled. His body moved slightly and leaned on Yi-Ching Luo's side. One arm stretched out, slightly leaned to the side and pulled Yi-Ching Luo into his arms. Yi-Ching Luo's head was pillowed on the man's arm, and her whole body seemed to be buried in the man's arms. A warm touch came to her earlobe. The man's voice was low and hoarse. "Just entered the hospital for 2 days, you had a conflict with your roommate and even the faculty council. Now even the killer is here, you are really Ah Luo." Beside her ears was the man's low and deep laughter. There was even a hint of pride in his tone. What's there to be proud of? Yi-Ching Luo felt that she and Diamo Xian were totally not on the same channel. "Do you want me to help you settle these matters?" Diamo Xian's slender fingers caressed Yi-Ching Luo's silky hair. "I just want to study well in the academy." Yi-Ching Luo rolled her eyes. He'll deal with it? Then her days in the academy would not be peaceful anymore. Yi-Ching Luo snuggled in Diamo Xian's arms and popped her head out. Her line of sight fell onto the little furball who was lying on the bed pretending to be asleep. "You brought my Chi-Chi out again?" The little furry ball curled up its tail and continued to pretend to be asleep. Yi-Ching Luo raised her brows. "So you're hiding something from me?" Chi-Chi curled up even tighter. However, it could feel that its master's eyes were locked on it. Chi-Chi was still scared. She opened her eyes and blinked a few times. Yi-Ching Luo was hugged tightly by Diamo Xian and couldn't move at all. She could only use her eyes to interrogate. "Where did you go?" Chi-Chi shook its head and looked at Diamo Xian. The hand that was across her waist suddenly pinched Yi-Ching Luo's waist. Chapter 201. Stroll. Yi-Ching Luo raised her eyebrows suspiciously, expressing her disbelief. Dmo Xian was a great god who had his own BGM. Was there a need to borrow the help of a sacred beast to act cool? Moreover, how was the nine-tailed fox not awe-inspiring? Other than strolling around, what else can I do to your Qi? Dmo Xian's long arm exerted a little strength as he shifted Yi Qing Luo's petite body upwards. Half of Yi Qing Luo's body was leaning on Dmo Xian's chest. 4 pairs of eyes met and Dmo Xian's thin lips curled into a devilish smile, his brows filled with mirth. Yi Qing Luo saw her own reflection in his pitch-black pupils. In his eyes there was only her. His heart suddenly began to pound uncontrollably, skipping a few beats. Following that, Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly as she unnaturally shifted her line of sight. Her cheeks flushed red and gradually heated up. This man, at the slightest disagreement, he used his charm. But she was a sucker for it. Yi Qing Luo naturally liked beautiful things that were pleasing to the eyes and made one's body and mind happy. What's more, Dmo Xian's looks and temperament completely conformed to her aesthetics. This hook made Yi Qing Luo feel like a little deer was running around. She shot a glance at Dmo Xian and discovered that he was still smiling, looking at her in ridicule. It was as if he wanted to imprint every expression on her face into his mind. Yi Qing Luo couldn't stand the stare. Although she was a modern woman, she was, after all, the head of a hidden family. She hung out with a bunch of old men all year round. His thoughts were not that unrestrained. She could still accept teasing a handsome man verbally. But being teased instead, Yi Qing Luo expressed her inability to accept it. Using such an intimate position to lie on top of Dmo Xian, Yi Qing Luo's breathing became messed up as she clenched her teeth tightly. You're using your charm to change the topic. I'll think that you've really done something to my Qi. She took a look at Qi and then looked at Dmo Xian as her lips curled into a teasing smile. Humph humph, Dmo Xian with a heavy taste. Not even saint beasts were spared. However, this smile, Yi Qing Luo wasn't able to laugh till the end. Her back was encircled by a long and powerful arm. The woman's soft and delicate body was pressed against the man's hard chest without any gap. The man stretched out his slender fingers and lifted Yi Qing Luo's little face. He bent down and kissed her, who had a smile on her lip. Their lips touched in a light kiss. The man's inky black eyes were dyed black, and there was some kind of emotion in them. He deepened the kiss. Their lips and teeth intertwined tightly. Yi Qing Luo's mind instantly went blank. Her petite body went limp and her breathing became heavy. She could only clench Dmo Xian's collar tightly, bit by bit, tightening and tightening. He felt dizzy. Until Dmo Xian loosened his grip on her lips and tightened his arms. Yi Qing Luo then regained her senses. The numbness on his lips was still there. The man's elegant sandalwood fragrance lingered in her mouth for a long time. In her ears, Dmo Xian's heavy breathing was accompanied by his unique magnetism. "Ah Luo, I'm not interested in Qi, but I want to do something to you." Yi Qing Luo was flustered. F***ck. This was the rhythm of being flirted with instead of being flirted with. Not only did she fail to counterattack, she was even taken advantage of by Dmo Xian. Simply too shameless. Fine. You're strong, you're awesome. I admit defeat. Yi Qing Luo gritted her teeth. Her hands were held by Dmo Xian and she couldn't move. She buried her face directly in the man's chest and used his clothes to wipe her mouth to express her disdain for him. At this time, Yi Qing Luo's mind was full of cultivating profound qi, working hard to advance, and after surpassing Dmo Xian, she could torment him however she wanted. Chapter 202. The next morning, when Yi Qing Luo woke up, Dmo Xian was no longer by her side. The assassin lying under the bed had also disappeared, and there was no trace of him left. He should have been taken care of by Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo mumbled as she got up to wash up. What was that man trying to do? For 2 consecutive nights, he had occupied her bed and shared the same pillow with her without any explanation. Did he not have a place to stay? How could he ruin a young lady's reputation? What kind of hobby was that? She wasted the whole night and did not go to the Azure Dew bracelet to cultivate. Just a little bit more and she would be able to touch the barrier and successfully break through. That killer, what was his background? What was certain was that the killer was definitely from the Heavenly Academy. Was it a master? A student? Or a worker in the Academy? The Heavenly Academy was heavily guarded, and if he was not from the Heavenly Academy, it was impossible to sneak in. And someone who dared to kill in the Heavenly Academy, he had gut. Yiqing Luo was deep in thought when someone knocked on the door and Lu Xiaoyu's voice was heard. "Qing Luo, are you awake? Come in." Yiqing Luo hid the deep meaning in her eyes and picked up the comb from the dressing table to comb her hair. She gathered her long hair into a bundle and tied it tightly with a hair tie. Lu Xiaoyu pushed the door and saw Yiqing Luo standing up from the dressing table. She was also wearing the same green and white uniform, but when worn on Yiqing Luo, there was a hint of coldness and aloofness, but also an enchanting and charming temperament. It was like a blooming lotus flower, elegant and refined. Lu Xiaoyu, who was used to seeing Yiqing Luo in red, couldn't help but blush when she saw this simple and elegant uniform. "Why are you up so early?" Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. The instructor gave them the opportunity to delay reporting to the square by 2 hours, but she didn't expect Lu Xiaoyu to wake up early. "After all, for the next whole month, we have to wake up early to train and form a habit." Yiqing Luo nodded. To become stronger, to improve their strength, and to stand firm. What they needed was not to squeeze out time to rest, but not to waste any time to train. They might not be able to keep up with the progress of the training if they were to report in 2 hours later. The two of them arrived at the freshman training field. At this moment, there were hundreds of exhausted students standing on the field. All of them yawned, unable to lift their spirits. When those students saw Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu, they all opened their mouths wide. "Aren't you allowed to sleep for 2 more hours? Why are you here so early?" "A day's plan lies in the morning, don't waste any time." Yiqing Luo replied in a good mood. A faint smile appeared on her face. "Just like what the instructor had asked me before, I didn't come to the academy to show off how strong I am, but to make myself stronger." The surrounding students had some feelings towards this sentence, while some felt that Yiqing Luo was hypocritical. All kinds of colored eyes, to Yiqing Luo, were of no importance. She pulled Lu Xiaoyu to stand in the line. On the second floor of the freshman training ground, 2 tall and muscular figures were leaning against a pillar. "This freshman is a little interesting." Instructor Chu's lips curled up slightly as he looked at the beautiful figure in the crowd. Instructor Ho's face was cold and he did not say a word. It was considered as a tacit approval of his words. He turned around, both hands on the horizontal railing, and looked down at the student. Chapter 203. It was nearing the time when the school bell rang. More than 300 freshmen had lined up in the field. It could be seen that yesterday's first training had given rise to fear in these students by the 2 instructors. After seeing the appearance of the 2 instructors, the students who were yawning and standing crookedly immediately stood up straight. "Very good." Instructor Chu glanced at the freshmen. "No one is absent." The students breathed a sigh of relief. This was a good start. If the instructors were in a good mood, the torture wouldn't be so heavy. Immediately after, they heard Instructor Ho said coldly, "Now, line up and run 5 laps around the inner line of the square. Start." "Damn. Still running. Didn't we run yesterday?" "Instructor, if we continue to run, it will cost our lives." When the students heard this, their previously tensed nerves instantly broke. They wailed endlessly and simply wanted to cry but had no tears. "Start." Instructor Ho didn't listen to their complaints and shouted mercilessly. The students trembled. No matter how unwilling they were, they still lifted their legs and began to run. One by one, the freshmen ran from the freshman training ground to the square, then to the inner line of the square, and began to run 1 lap after another. This time, Instructor Ho arranged for Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu to be the first. After one lap, the two of them were already far ahead. With yesterday's start, although the students' legs were tired and physically and mentally exhausted, they had obviously improved a lot compared to yesterday. It wasn't until the second lap that the students gradually quit. 2 hours later, Yiqing Luo finished running 5 laps, stood at the finishing line, and began to stretch her muscles. Running was supposed to be done step by step. The instructors asked them to run 5 laps at one time. If it wasn't like Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu, who used to wake up early to run every day, no one could persist for 5 laps at once. Yiqing Luo could see that the purpose of the instructors was not to let these students run 5 laps at all. It was just to stimulate their potential and let them get used to this rhythm. After Yiqing Luo finished massaging her legs, she walked to the rest area and took a glass of water to drink. Instructor Chu walked over and looked at Yiqing Luo with his sharp eyes. "Tired?" "I'm all right." Yiqing Luo smiled. Other than the sweat on her forehead, she wasn't panting too much. "Did you undergo training before coming to the academy?" Instructor Chu raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. "Yes, I don't want to be treated as trash again, so I set a goal for myself to train." When Instructor Chu heard her answer, he smiled with interest. This girl's answer was quite honest. "Your foundation is above these people. How about starting tomorrow? The new students will do 5 laps and you will do 10 laps." There was a flash of excitement in Instructor Chu's eyes, but it was fleeting. So fast that Yiqing Luo thought that she had seen wrongly. Why did she feel that? Instructor Chu seemed to want her to run 10 laps? The instructor said that he would arrange a suitable training method for everyone based on yesterday's training. "I will listen to everything the instructor says." 10 laps, Yiqing Luo had no objections. She came to the academy with the intention of becoming stronger. Instructor Chu nodded with satisfaction, then turned around and returned to the finishing point of the square. He raised his voice and said, "Those who have finished 5 laps, report back to the freshman training ground. Those who haven't finished, run until today." Those who had quit halfway and didn't have time to rest, when they heard Instructor Chu's words, they braced themselves and joined the running team. It seemed that yesterday was really just a test, and today was the official training. Chapter 204. Yiqing Luo was the first to follow Instructor Chu back to the freshman training ground. The freshman training ground was a closed field, about the size of Yiqing Luo's new courtyard in the Three Springs sect. It was about 600 meters around the field. In the corner of the training ground, there were a lot of self-made training equipment. It was comparable to the training Yiqing Luo received in the Hidden Family in her previous life. "Go and do 200 push-ups." After Instructor Chu brought Yiqing Luo to the training ground, he didn't wait for her to look around and directly gave an order. After running 5 laps inside the square, Yiqing Luo's legs were already a little tired. She didn't protest when she heard Instructor Chu's words. She walked to the place designated by Instructor Chu and began to do push-up. The movements were standard and smooth. Breathing and muscles were in sync. The smile on Instructor Chu's lips gradually deepened as he nodded in satisfaction. This Yiqing Luo was completely different from the other students. It was as if she had undergone professional training. She didn't need any guidance at all to complete all the basic training perfectly. There wasn't the slightest flaw in her training. Moreover, she wouldn't be like the other students, who would complain endlessly about their assigned goals. He was willing to teach such sensible freshmen even if there were another 100 of them. Yiqing Luo adjusted her breathing and frequency and did one after another. On the second floor of the training ground, a few masters dressed in white robes with a horizontal bar on their shoulders were accompanied by a young man dressed in black. When passing by the field, the young man paused slightly and looked at Yiqing Luo with a pair of indifferent eyes. This pair of eyes was cold and aloof, as if looking down on everything. There was no ripple in his pupils, as calm as still water. His expression was icy cold, without any emotion. The young man exuded a cold aura from head to toe. Master Chu, this is the freshman training ground. The freshman is doing training. The master at the side quickly explained when he saw the situation. Freshman? The young man stared at Yiqing Luo. His eyes were deep and his thin lips moved slightly. Can she take this training? She's the most powerful new student we've recruited this year. A master recognized Yiqing Luo, who was doing push-ups. Although her profound grade is not high, but her potential is full. She's Yiqing Luo. The master at the side was suddenly enlightened and shifted his gaze to Yiqing Luo. This freshman is indeed a talent. If she is nurtured well, she will definitely become an influential figure in the Western continent in the future. The young man squinted his cold eyes as he muttered softly, Yiqing Luo. It's indeed her. The master didn't hear the lad's complaint and shook his head when he saw that he was interested in Yiqing Luo. This new student has only been in the academy for 2 days, but his name has already spread throughout the academy. Old man Gui Yu couldn't wait to take her as his disciple and take care of her. Moreover, she has His Majesty behind her. The youth's expressionless face changed a little. He suddenly raised his eyes and stared at the teacher with his cold, dark eyes. Dizun? Yes, she seems to be the disciple of the Overlord. The young man frowned slightly as if he was deep in thought. As for Yiqing Luo, who was doing her push-ups, she naturally felt that someone was staring at her. It seemed like they were still talking about her. Just as she finished 200 push-ups, she stood up and looked towards the second floor. On the second floor stood a few masters and a young man. When her vision was fixed on the young man's face, Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. She didn't expect to meet a face that was comparable to Dmo Xian's. It was just that, this face looked dull, cold and arrogant. Chapter 205. Sit for half an hour and do 200 weighted squats. Seeing Yiqing Luo stood up and began to stretch her limbs, Instructor Chu issued another order. Yiqing Luo responded and moved her gaze away from the young man, sitting cross-legged on the ground. Instructor Chu was considerate. He even took the initiative to pour a glass of water and handed it to Yiqing Luo. The young man on the second floor originally looked into Yiqing Luo's eyes. His indifferent face hooked into a shallow arc. However, Yiqing Luo just glanced at him and didn't look at him again. Instead, he looked at Instructor Chu, who was standing next to him, silently. The young man's handsome brows tightly knitted together and his eyes darkened. She dared to look away. She didn't recognize him? The master next to him sensed the cold air from the young man and immediately stopped talking. After a while, the young man waved his sleeves, put his hands behind his back, and spat out a word coldly. Go! Instructor Chu began to urge her after sitting for just half an hour. Yiqing Luo got up and took out 2 iron wristbands from the training equipment, each weighing 50 kilograms. She put them on and began to do squats. One Instructor Chu crossed his arms in front of his chest. His face was full of satisfaction. This freshman had a strong willpower and endurance. It was rare to see. Even the students from the high profound class, after doing so many exercises in a row, they would more or less show some complaints and reluctance. It was no wonder that old man Gui Yu had identified Yiqing Luo at first sight. Even he had a kind of impulse to train hard to see how strong Yiqing Luo could be. When Yiqing Luo did 70 over, Lu Xiaoyu also completed 5 laps and rushed to the freshman training ground. Similarly, she was asked to do push-ups by the instructor. However, Lu Xiaoyu only needed to do 150. The two of them did their own thing. One by one, numbers popped out from their mouth. No one complained at all. Yiqing Luo was very tired, a full 10 kilometers of jogging, plus 200 push-ups and then weighted squats. After finishing, Instructor Chu issued new instructions for Yiqing Luo to run another 5 laps around the training ground with this 100-kilogram wristband. Although this training ground was much smaller than the inner line of the plaza, it was much smaller. But after a series of training, to run these 5 laps. Even if Yi Qing Luo trained frequently, it was still a little too much. His arms and legs were so tired and heavy that they did not feel like his own. However, Yi Qing Luo relied on the willpower in her bones to complete all the training. Yi Qing Luo was sweating profusely as her face turned pale. He didn't even have the strength to wipe the sweat off his face. She sat heavily on the ground, gasping for air. His limbs were so sore that it was difficult for him to even move. There was even a faint twitching sensation. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the wall and closed her eyes to rest for a while before she slowly opened her eyes. The moment she opened her eyes, she discovered that there were several pairs of eyes staring at her. In the freshman training field, there were actually over 100 students. Yesterday, only she and Lu Xiaoyu had completed 10 laps, and there were 2 other students who were only a few steps behind. Today, there were actually over 100 of them? Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule as she closed her eyes once again. The students who were admitted into the Heavenly Academy were definitely not useless, and their own strength was definitely not weak. Yesterday, they were indeed lazy on purpose. The training exercises were all the same. Instructor Chu decided the number of exercises according to each person's qualifications. After resting for a while, she suddenly heard footsteps approaching her. Chapter 206. Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes and frowned. There were 2 teenagers standing in front of her. They were slender but tall, with a polite smile on their immature faces. "Student Yi, we want to thank you." "Thank me?" Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. Had she ever done anything worthy of gratitude? The 2 teenagers squatted down and faced Yi Qing Luo. The teenager on the left curled his lips and smiled brightly. "My name is Dong Huang Lang. You spoke for us when we jogged 5 laps in the square yesterday." The teenager on the right was slightly indifferent and nodded slightly to Yi Qing Luo. "My name is Qi Yi Jing." Yi Qing Luo was suddenly enlightened. "It's you guys." She remembered that the 2 teenagers were only a few steps away from reaching the finish line. But both of them didn't make it to the end and fainted on the track at the same time. Sigh, it was such a pity yesterday, just a little bit more. I won. Dong Huang Lang shook his head and sighed, sitting next to Yi Qing Luo. He put his hand on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. "Fortunately, you helped us to speak to the black-faced instructor, so we passed the training." Perhaps it was because of Dong Huang Lang. Yi Qing Luo saw her own brother and didn't feel disgusted with his action. "I just said what I thought. There's no need to thank you." Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. "Moreover, under the countless students who gave up, you can still persist. This kind of persistence is very touching." "I still have to thank you. Without today's 2 hours of rest, my legs would definitely be broken." Dong Huang Lang leaned his whole body over Lang. Qi Yi Jing's eyes swept over Dong Huang Lang's hand. "No matter how much you admire Student Yi, she is also a woman. Don't touch her." Dong Huang Lang retracted his hand bitterly. Yes, old man Jing, men and women should not touch each other, I understand." Yi Qing Luo looked at the both of them as she couldn't help but burst out laughing. "You two have a good relationship." This kind of relationship was very sincere. It made Yi Qing Luo envious. "Who has a good relationship with him?" Dong Huang Lang snorted lightly. "Besides bullying me, he only knows how to bully me. I will die of anger if I have a good relationship with this kind of person." Qi Yijing just glanced at him indifferently and was too lazy to speak. Instructor Chu shuttled back and forth among the students, checking and adjusting the irregular movements, and was about to check on Yi Qing Luo. Qi Yijing pulled Dong Huang Lang up and looked at Yi Qing Luo. "If there is a chance for us to repay your kindness, please do not hesitate to look for us. We still have other training to do, so we will leave first." After that, without waiting for Yi Qing Luo's reply, he pulled Dong Huang Lang back to the training team. He came suddenly and left in a hurry. These 2 youths were really willful. Yi Qing Luo smiled helplessly as she supported herself against the wall and stood up. After resting, his limbs felt even weaker. After taking a few steps, he felt a stabbing pain in his bones. The aftereffects of his limbs penetrating through his limbs had arrived. You have completed all the training, go back to the dormitory to rest first. Instructor Chu noticed Yi Qing Luo's movements and walked over. Yi Qing Luo nodded. She indeed couldn't wait to return to the dormitory and have a good sleep. After submitting the comprehensive data of yesterday and today's training to the dean, the school's top management will assign you to your classes after 5 p.m. Remember to report to the training ground. Instructor Chu reminded. Yi Qing Luo responded and said goodbye to Lu Xiaoyu, who was doing heavy squats, and left the freshman training ground. Chapter 207. She had just arrived at the dormitory and had yet to step through the door when a respectful voice came from behind. "Student Yi, please wait a moment." Yi Qing Luo frowned as she turned her head impatiently to look behind her. The person behind her was dressed like an attendant, holding 2 bottles of medicine in his hands. "This is a gift from my young master." The attendant held up the 2 bottles with both hands and bent down to deliver them to Yi Qing Luo. "This bottle is for external injuries. Apply it on the 4 limbs to dispel the fatigue. This bottle is for internal consumption. After taking it, the body will recover its vitality." Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes and stood up straight against the door. "Your young master?" She had never seen this attendant before. What he was wearing was also not the uniform of a worker in the academy. He should be someone from outside the school. Who was his young master? The attendant did not answer, but moved his hands closer to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was an alchemist herself. From the fragrance of the medicine, she could judge that these 2 bottles were absolutely precious. Only those above the level of an alchemist could refine such precious items. Could it be Dmo Xian? The current her indeed needed such precious pills to replenish her vitality. And she did not have the time nor the energy to refine pills in the azure dew bracelet. Immediately, she did not stand on ceremony and took the bottle. The attendant smiled, saluted again, and turned to leave. "Who is your young master?" Yi Qing Luo stopped the attendant and asked. The attendant paused for a moment and replied, "My young master's surname is Chu." After saying that, the attendant left straight away. "Chu?" Yi Qing Luo frowned and looked down at the 2 bottles in her hands. Did she know someone with the surname Chu? In her memory, she did not seem to know such a person. Yi Qing Luo knew that she had a photographic memory. The other party could take out pills that were above the level of an alchemist. His identity was certainly not ordinary. She should have an impression. "You're back?" The dormitory door was suddenly opened. Emoing stood at the door, looking up and staring at Yi Qing Luo with empty eyes. Yi Qing Luo restrained her thoughts and put the bottle in her sleeve. "Don't you need to go to class?" When Emoing heard her question, the corner of her mouth twitched, revealing a strange smile. "There's no need for class. Our class doesn't have a teacher." Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. "No master dares to teach? What class is it that's so powerful?" Emoing was expressionless again. She inched towards the dormitory. "You're back quite early. It seems that the freshman training isn't difficult for you." Seeing that she had changed the topic, Yi Qing Luo didn't pursue further. The exhaustion from her body made her not in the mood to continue the conversation. With a wave of his hand, he returned to his room. Behind him, Emoing, who had returned to her wooden chair, looked up. A faintly discernible ray of light flashed in those usually empty and lifeless eyes. That stiff and expressionless lowly face also had a hint of a smile that wasn't a smile. After returning to the room, Yi Qing Luo sprawled onto the bed without a care for her image. Chi-Chi came out from the void and jumped to the side of Yi Qing Luo's head. It stuck out its soft little tongue and licked her gently. Yi Qing Luo turned over and met Chi-Chi's black tiger eyes. Ow! Chi-Chi opened its mouth and let out a low whimper, as if it was distressed for her. Yi Qing Luo smiled and rubbed her face on its little body. "I'm going to rest for a while. Wake me up before 5 p.m. Ow ow, Chi responded and obediently curled up its little body, lying next to Yi Qing Luo.